Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto trained by Guruko for Chunin exams part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. I'm not talking to him. It would make things a lot easier if you would. That imbecile of a student will drive me insane if I do. Naruto isn't nearly as bad as you think. Guruko, Kakashi, along with his 8 dogs, made their way along the roads of Konoha to the bridge that he and his team meet at every day. At the moment, Kakashi was in a tight spot with 3 of his dogs, Pakken, Vahey and Guruko, out of commission due to injuries with a month-long mission ahead. Therein lies Kakashi's brilliant plan. If he couldn't take care of 3 of his precious dogs while he was gone, then why not have his 3 precious students do it for him? Pakken rode atop Bull, his little body burned a bit from a fire jutsu Kakashi didn't expect from the water-wielding missing Nin. Vahey, his only female dog, winced every few steps, her injury being nothing more than an ear infection but enough that she could not go on the mission and needed someone to take her to her checkups. Then there was, why do I have to go with the idiot? Can't one of the others go? Guruko whined pitifully from within Kakashi's arms. The dog had broken his back leg when he miscalculated the strength of a tree limb while they'd been on the trail of the said water-missing Nin. Kakashi took a deep breath and then a smaller one just to be sure. Because Sakura is not strong enough to carry you to your vet appointments, or anywhere for that matter. Vahey is the only one with no way to communicate in the human language, so she will go with Sasuke because Sasuke is not absent-minded enough to forget something. Despite his size, Naruto can easily carry you and you will be able to remind him when he's forgotten something. Kakashi explained for the 3rd time that morning. I'm not talking to him, Guruko repeated. If he knows I can talk, he will drive me insane with useless babbling. Kakashi sighed. Then I guess if he forgets to feed you, you will starve, Kakashi said bluntly. Guruko huffed and buried his head deep into Kakashi's chest for warmth. It was November after all, and even the Fire Nation got quite cold from November to January. Besides, Kakashi added with a nice smile, Naruto talks to everyone whether they can hear or understand him anyway. You have to remember that Naruto's been alone all his life. I often find him talking to himself while he trains just to fill the air with noise. I think it's just his way of trying not to feel too lonely. Kakashi said the last part quietly and assumed Guruko got the point when the dog felt no more need to complain. When Kakashi arrived at the bridge, it was to find, to his vast amusement, Sakura atop the rail trying to engage an irritated Sasuke in conversation, while he stared down at the river below and a fast-asleep Naruto with chin to his chest and his back to the pole. It was to be expected on a Monday. Naruto did God knew what on the weekends and always slept while waiting for the lazy Jounin to arrive. The rest of the week Naruto would be wide awake, but Mondays were, as the boy put it, death warmed up just for me. Always the optimist of the group, Team 7 was caught off guard by the solemn phrase one early Monday morning when they'd first become a team. So caught off guard were they that Sakura cracked up laughing, Sasuke nearly tripped and Kakashi stopped walking to stare at the miserable blonde. Needless to say, they never once questioned why Naruto immediately fell asleep every Monday, they just went with it. Everyone deserved at least some time to be in a dark mood after all. Good morning, team, Kakashi called out cheerily. Sasuke peered over at him with a thankful expression as Sakura's attention was pulled away from the Uchiha. Sakura blinked several times and checked her watch. You're only 10 minutes late, she said, surprised. The dogs yipped happily and skipped over to the pair. Sakura immediately bent down to scratch behind Shiba's big ears. Sasuke cocked an eyebrow at the dogs, hand unconsciously scratching Urishi on the head. What's up? Why'd you summon your dogs, Kakashi? Sasuke asked. Kakashi smiled. Sasuke always called him by name while Sakura merely called him sensei and Naruto called him Kaka-sensei. It displayed their personalities perfectly. Sasuke with his hint of arrogance even while addressing a superior, yet the clear respect he held for the Jounin that Kakashi could detect through the boy's tone. Sakura's formal show of respect underlying the fact that she called all other Jounin senseis as Gai-sensei or Kurenai-sensei indicated that he was her team leader and therefore the one she most respected. And then there was Naruto. The slightly short and disrespectful nickname Kaka combined with sensei was perhaps the name he was most fond of. He had noticed that Naruto only gave disrespectful titles to those he was closest to, Iruka being the exception to the rule because Naruto would never disrespect his father figure in such a way. It simply wasn't done. Due to the nature of his birth and the consequences afterward, Naruto had been forced to learn everything about normal behavior on his own, and thus had come up with several wrong conclusions. It took Kakashi a full year of working with Naruto to correct some of those habits, and yet he still found some of the things the blonde did completely bewildering. Bull lumbered over to the still dozing Naruto and licked the boy's face to awaken him. Naruto cracked his eyes open tiredly and yawned loudly, arms outstretched above his head. Naruto patted Bull's head dazedly before peering around and catching sight of the other 7 dogs and his team. Yo, Sleeping Beauty, Pakken called with a raised paw from the back of Bull's head. Naruto smiled crookedly at the small dog. Mornin' to you too, Naruto said with a bit of a laugh as he got to his feet slowly. Kakashi nodded toward Naruto. Now that we're all awake, I tell you why I brought them along today. It's because you three will be watching over 3 of my dogs while I'm gone on a mission, Kakashi chirped happily. All of his students greatly enjoyed it when he summoned his dogs to aid in a mission after all. The statement enlisted a variety of reactions. Sakura stopped scratching and lipped up. For how long? She asked happily. Sasuke sighed in a bored-like manner but couldn't completely hide a small smile. Naruto surprised him by biting his lip and tilting his head forwards a bit, allowing the shadows and his bangs to hide the sight of his eyes. An action Naruto did only when he was displeased or upset about something and didn't want anyone knowing. My mission should last from about 4 to 5 weeks, so about a month. I have scrolls of instructions for each of you and money for dog food and supplies. All of them should be healed in a couple weeks so they can even assist you on missions after that if they feel up to it, Kakashi said as he pulled out 3 scrolls. Naruto bit down on his lip hard enough to draw blood, but with a small flourish of his arms as he brought them to rest on the back of his neck the trail of blood was gone. What was that? Kakashi wondered. Sakura, you will be taking care of Pakken, Kakashi said as he handed the scroll to her. She frowned a bit, remembering the comment from the small dog about how they used the same shampoo, and sighed. The weeks ahead were going to be very long indeed. Sasuke, you will be taking care of Ahei, Kakashi said as the bandaged dog ambled over to him. Sasuke nodded, but felt a little annoyed that he'd somehow managed to get the only female dog in the entire pack. Kakashi turned to Naruto, who smiled at him broadly, eyes narrowed far enough that Kakashi couldn't see them, and hands in pockets. I want you to take Guruko here, Kakashi said, nodding toward the disgruntled dog. Hey Kaka-sensei, I don't remember, can he talk? Naruto asked, still with his too big grin. Guruko gave Kakashi a warning growl from within his arms and Kakashi inwardly sighed in exasperation. No, so you won't be able to talk to him while he's with you, Kakashi said. The other dogs gave Guruko an irritated stare, but the injured dog ignored them. Kakashi felt himself staring at Naruto in question when the small blonde's entire body language suddenly dropped all of its bounded-up tension. It was a small change but enough for the Jounin to notice as well as the dogs around them. Oh really? That's too bad, it would have been way more fun if he could talk back, Naruto said with a laugh as he took the dog and scroll from Kakashi's arms. Kakashi stood back and glanced at all 3 of his students with a bit of pride. They would be fine without him and would all take good care of his dogs, there was no doubt about that, even if Guruko was being a brat. Tsunade will limit you to D and C rank mission near the village while I'm gone, and you will be paid out of my own pocket for the amount of 2 C ranks for taking care of my dogs, 1 C for every 2 weeks. If I'm gone a 5th week, let's just say that you love me enough to do that for free. The copy mean and his 5 remaining dogs disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Typical, Sasuke, Sakura and Naruto muttered under their breaths before saying goodbye to each other and heading home. 3 months ago the Chunin exams ended in a small war with sound and sand. Tsunade had been in office for a month and a half now as the Godame Hokage, and 2 days ago Naruto's refrigerator finally broke down on him and died. An event that the blonde had been dreading for the last 6 months. When Naruto entered his home with Guruko in his arms, who was sleeping peacefully in the blonde's surprisingly warm arms the whole way, yawned and stretched his neck back and forth to wake up properly. Guruko cracked his eyes open and peered around the small apartment in interest of the place he'd be staying for the next month. What he found greatly surprised him. There were plants everywhere. A large one in every corner with vine-like plants hanging from the ceiling and small ones on the counters and in the middle of the run-down table. A few held flowers on them, but for the most part it was just a lot of green and leafy plants. Kakashi devotedly watered a plant in his apartment that Naruto had given him sometime during the first couple months. Team 7 had been formed, so the dog knew that Naruto liked plants, but this seemed a bit over the top. That's when the dog came to a second conclusion. The place, despite the numerous plants, was incredibly bare. The plants were literally the only objects in the apartment. No picture frames, no trinkets of any sort, only the occasional bill sitting on the table or a shelf. Guruko imagined, because he still didn't want to talk to Naruto and thus couldn't ask, that the plants were there to fill up space and force the bare apartment to have some life. Naruto walked past all of them and pushed aside a curtain that had covered a doorway. Guruko discovered that it led to Naruto's room. The blonde gently placed the dog on his small bed, making sure that the furred animal was placed on the largest bulk of covers there. Guruko took a peek around, noticing that the place seemed like a cocoon. Unlike the previous kitchen/living room he'd been in, the small room seemed to have all of the possessions Naruto ever owned. Atop the dresser beside the bed by its lone self sat a picture of Team 7, and around the bed sat an array of weapons and scrolls. Above the bed sat a poster with the symbol of the leaf and the Fire Nation that, if he remembered correctly from what Pakken said about Kakashi's academy days, was given to each and every student for free. Pakken was the oldest of the dogs and had been with Kakashi since the man's childhood, while Guruko had been born while Kakashi was in his mid-teens. Guruko felt his eye twitch. There were more plants too, one in every corner and a couple hanging from the ceiling. Guruko watched Naruto sigh heavily as the blonde walked into the bathroom with a bowl and come back out with it filled with water. Instead of setting it on the floor though, Naruto set it down on the wide windowsill so that the broken-legged dog could easily get to it. Guruko would admit he'd expected the blonde not to consider his leg and felt a bit grateful. Naruto sighed again and sat on the bed, scratching Guruko on the head in a rhythmic fashion. How am I going to do this? Naruto half asked the dog, half asked himself. Guruko cocked his head to the side and looked at the blonde shinobi. Naruto fell back onto his bed beside the dog, eyes trained on the ceiling. I can't just leave you here all the time, but Naruto turned his head till he stared at him, the dog fidgeting under the slightly dull stare. Naruto sat up quickly and let his arms fall into his lap, staring at the floor. I could take you to the place I train all the time but leave you here when I go to work, Naruto said thoughtfully and peered back as if he expected Guruko to either agree or disagree. Not likely, thought Guruko with a snort as he turned away from the blonde. Naruto grinned at the dog and shook his head. Hee, so you don't like me either, huh? That's okay, not many people do, or animals I suppose in your case, Naruto said as he stood up. Guruko's ears went back against his skull at the blonde's words. I just don't want to be talked to death is all, Guruko thought. You're a nice enough kid, you're just a loudmouth too. Well, I'm going to go train, do you want to come with? Naruto asked, watching closely for the dog's reaction. After all, he was still one of Kakashi's dogs, even if Naruto thought he couldn't talk. The dog shoved his head under the covers and placed his butt specifically in front of Naruto. Naruto sighed and Guruko heard the blonde quietly gather some things and head towards the door. I'll be back in a few hours, Naruto called back, and with that the front door closed. Guruko raised his head as he heard the door open at 5 that night. Naruto walked into the room covered in a layer of sweat and dirt, but with a content aura around him. You hungry, Guruko? Naruto asked as he pulled off his jacket and put it in his dirty laundry. Guruko sat up and wagged his tail happily. He was starving, the blonde didn't leave anything for him, and he was too stubborn to remind the blonde. Naruto laughed and picked the dog up, easily carrying him into the kitchen despite the fact he'd just gotten back from a long training session. Naruto set him on the ground and headed to his cabinets, opening one up and pulling out a bag of jerky. Guruko yipped happily but frowned as he poured only half the bag into a bowl and left the other half on the table. It wasn't much, especially since he hadn't eaten all day. Naruto patted his head and left to take a shower. Guruko ate all of it quickly and stared irritably at the empty bowl as the sound of the shower could be heard from the background. When Naruto walked through the kitchen door running a towel through his hair, Guruko growled at the blonde, startling him enough to drop the towel onto the floor. Guruko pushed his bowl forward as the blonde stared at him, causing the blonde to give a snort of amusement. Naruto grabbed the other half of the jerky bag and poured the rest of it into the bowl. Guruko wagged his tail and munched happily as Naruto sat down at the table with a sigh. Guruko watched out of the corner of his eye as Naruto folded his arms and laid his head down, watching him as he ate. Why is he staring at me? Guruko asked himself in annoyance. As Guruko finished up, Naruto bent down and picked up the empty bowl. I wasn't really hungry anyways, Naruto muttered to himself. Guruko froze and stared at him. He'd eaten Naruto's dinner? Why doesn't he just get something else then? Guruko thought, trying to ignore the guilt he felt. Naruto sighed again. Well, I'll go ahead and pick up your dog food tomorrow and go shopping while I'm at it, Naruto told the dog, whose unasked question was unknowingly answered. Guruko gave a guilty start that went unnoticed by the blonde. As Naruto cleaned the bowl, Guruko noticed something. Naruto was wearing black. In the last year there was a number of times Kakashi summoned his dogs during missions, and once in a while just while the team trained for enjoyment. In all those times Guruko never once saw Naruto in anything but orange, so the sight set him off balance. It was simply a pair of black pants, perhaps a little big on him, and a black short-sleeved t-shirt. Naruto finished up and walked into the room, coming back out with a bandana and black bandages. Naruto gave a small smile as the dog cocked an eyebrow at him. You totally look like Sasuke right now, Naruto told him. Guruko's ears went back in displeasure at the comment, and Naruto broke out in laughter. Naruto sat down and tied the bandana over his head, making sure to cover every strand of the straw-colored hair. I'm going to work, Naruto told the dog as he began to tie the bandages around his face. Guruko stared at the blonde in question. You don't have your head band, so what work will you be doing, and why are you covering your face? Guruko thought to himself. As Guruko continued to watch, he noted that it wasn't his entire face but just his possession marks that the blonde was covering. As Naruto tightened the bandage and let the ends hang from the back of his neck, he caught the dog staring and smiled. People easily recognize me from my possession marks. As long as I cover my hair, don't wear orange, and hide my marks, I'm able to walk around like any normal civilian and get a job like any normal civilian. Naruto added the last part as an afterthought. You work 2 jobs? Guruko blinked in surprise. Naruto walked away from the dog and pulled on his shoes. I'll take you out to go to the bathroom real quick and then head out after I bring you in. Sound good? Naruto asked as he picked the dog up and headed out. I have 3 other legs I can walk on, thank you. I don't need to be carried all the time. Guruko thought irritably, though still too stubborn to say anything out loud, and admittedly very comfortable anyways. Guruko limped back and forth, eyes watching the clock wearily. Tick-tock. It grated on his nerves more and more with each glance. 12 hit not but a few minutes ago, and the dog was irked. Naruto was not home yet and Guruko was irritated. Okay, he would admit only to himself, he was worried. Forget the fact that Naruto was a shinobi and an orphan that had lived on his own his entire life. He was still only 13. He shouldn't be out at all hours of the night. The door creaked open and Naruto walked in with a large yawn. Guruko stopped pacing and growled at the blonde, who gave him a sheepish grin. Satoshi wanted me to mop the floors in the back before I left, Naruto half explained. And I'm supposed to know who the crap Satoshi is? Guruko silently glowered. Naruto shrugged and patted him on the head before heading into the bedroom. Guruko limped behind him and watched as the blonde took off everything but his pants and t-shirt. So, would you rather the bed or the floor? Naruto asked jokingly. Guruko smirked and limped over to the bed where he sat purposely beside it waiting to be picked up. Naruto's sweat dropped. I gave that to you, didn't I? Naruto asked as he rubbed the back of his head. Naruto pulled off one blanket from his cocoon and dropped it on the floor before gently placing Guruko on top of his bed. The dog snickered as Naruto laid down on the ground. Yeah, just you wait, I'll get the bed tomorrow and then you'll be sleeping on the floor, Naruto said as he turned off the light and curled up on the blanket, closing his eyes for the night. Guruko stared down at the blonde for a long moment before also closing his eyes. You're not as bad as I thought. Rays of light could be an evil thing, especially when you lie on a bed that's directly beside a window that's wide open. Guruko growled in irritation, knowing who pushed the window open. It was this very same evil window opener that could be heard humming in the kitchen. Guruko barked loudly, telling the blonde that he was awake and wanted down. Naruto walked in, orange pants and fishnet shirt on, and walked over, only half paying attention, and quickly but gently put the dog on the ground. The blonde walked right back into the kitchen with Guruko limping behind him. There was a large bag of kibble on the table and a single thing of meat that Naruto was preparing to cook. Guruko looked at the clock and bulked. It was only 7 in the morning and the boy obviously had been awake long enough to pick up food for him. Naruto continued to hum a, admittedly beautiful, tune as he pounded the meat and carefully cut out the bone. Naruto placed the frozen bone into Guruko's dog bowl before sticking the meat into the oven to cook. When Naruto finally noticed the dog in the room, he gave a small smile. I figured since I forgot to give you some food yesterday afternoon, I'd go ahead and cook you something before I left as an apology, Naruto said happily. Guruko nodded in approval as he pulled out bone from bowl and started to gnaw on it. After I take you out, I'll be going on a few D-ranks with Sasuke and Sakura. When I get back, probably around 4 maybe 5, I'll give you some more food and take you out again. I leave every night for my other job about 6 and don't usually get off till 11, so I won't be able to spend a lot of time with you, Naruto explained as he poured himself a cup of tea. Tomorrow is a training day though, so I'll take you with me. Sakura is going to help me with chakra control and Sasuke's gonna help Sakura with weapons aim. You also have a vet appointment on the Inuzuka compound at 6, so I'll have to be a little late for work to take you, which means that I'll also be staying later than normal. Naruto's stomach gave a rather large roar, but the blonde ignored it as he continued to sip at his tea, though there was a bit of a blush on his cheeks. Hasn't he eaten anything since yesterday afternoon? Guruko thought worriedly as the dog remembered he'd eaten Naruto's portion of dinner last night. Guruko limped over to Naruto and lightly tugged the orange pant leg till Naruto looked down at him. Guruko whined up at him, his meaning obvious. I never eat breakfast, Naruto answered him, at which Guruko's ears went back against his skull. Naruto softly stroked the dog's head as he continued to whine. Eating food before 12 upsets my stomach, Naruto answered in amusement. Guruko's first impression that Naruto liked to talk just for the sake of talking was correct. The entire time they waited for the meat to cook, the blonde told the dog about a few good pranks he'd pulled at the academy, and on some of the villagers, but they were much more amusing tales than Guruko would ever admit. For one thing, because Naruto believed Guruko could not talk back, the blonde was much more honest about failed attempts, and even admitted to quite a few hilarious screw-ups. And for another, Naruto spoke as if he expected to be ignored, so the persona Guruko gauged was much darker and sarcastic than the blonde that belonged to Team 7 knew. In the end, Naruto cut up the finished meat, put it in his bowl and left the dog for a busy day. Guruko sat beside Naruto that night as the two ate dinner together. Guruko chewing his kibbles up while Naruto ate a big bowl of plain white rice. Apparently, as he would discover while sniffing around, Naruto had bought a bag of white rice to match Guruko's dog food. It sat slumped against the wall right next to the kibbles, taunting the dog. There was no food in the cabinets or in the refrigerator, as Guruko found out when Naruto got home. Just a big white bag of rice, the only thing cheaper than ramen, and definitely not something that you could live off of. Naruto had explained to him that his refrigerator was cop-out, that he didn't have the money to replace it, nor would he at any time in the nearby future. The blonde would pick up some meat on the way home every other day for him, as Kakashi instructed was the normal diet his dogs received, though simply raw meat instead of cooked. Guruko watched Naruto slowly eat from the corner of his eyes and wondered how long it had been since Naruto had eaten anything outside of ramen or white rice. Guruko had decided that since Naruto was more open because he believed he could not talk, that he would remain silent to see what else he would need to report to Kakashi when the man got back. He did not like this situation at all. Wasn't the landlord supposed to replace such things as a refrigerator if they broke? Kakashi's landlord always did, and the dog had assumed it was supposed to be that way for everyone. After dinner, Naruto got dressed in his other work outfit and left. Just as he did the night before, Guruko waited up for the blonde, but this time slept on the floor. Guruko woke up to screaming. The dog jerked awake, searching for the cause of alarm, and found it to be Naruto. The blonde turned his face into his pillow, trying to muffle the sounds with hands clenched so tight around his bed sheets that the knuckles were white. Guruko looked around, trying to find an assailant, and finding none, searched the short blonde for injuries, of which none were evident. Naruto screamed in agony once more, but at the same time trying desperately to keep the sound in, to keep quiet. Guruko stared in shock as Naruto pulled out a kunai and shoved the handle into his mouth. The scream sounded much softer now, but no less horrible to watch. Guruko leaped onto the bed, his leg causing him a good deal of pain and causing him to fall more than land on the sheets. Naruto was sitting up, arms tight around his sides, with an intense look of pain in his eyes. Guruko whimpered as he tried to figure out what was wrong and why Naruto was trying to hide his screams. The dog limped up to Naruto and licked the blonde's face, but shrank back a little at the intense heat the boy was exhibiting. He definitely had a fever. What could he do? Kakashi was gone, the front door was locked, the windows shut tight, and he'd never make it to another shinobi's house with his leg. Naruto's grip on his midriff suddenly tightened as another large scream escaped from around the piece of metal, his body leaning forward till the preteen's sweaty forehead touched his knees. Guruko nuzzled against the blonde, feeling the boy shaking against him. What's going on? The dog thought in panic. Naruto screamed for 2 long hours before the pain seemed to lessen considerably. The kunai dropped out of Naruto's mouth dully as the boy tried desperately to get his breathing back under control. Guruko took up the kunai, dropped it off the side of the bed, and then the dog sniffed Naruto hesitantly as a final check. He didn't smell sick, which was what confused the dog so much, because he had a fever. There was no explanation for the pain either. A fever didn't cause pain like that. Naruto coughed harshly for several long minutes before he gave the dog a weak smile, body falling limply against the sheets again. Thanks, Naruto croaked in a hoarse whisper. What's wrong, brat? Guruko asked, but Naruto didn't hear it, he was already fast asleep. Guruko slipped in as close to the blonde as he could, Naruto's face dipping into his side and one still shaking arm gently wrapped around the dog's small body. He did not like this, no, Guruko did not like this at all. Guruko gave an irritated growl when the alarm clock went off later that Wednesday morning, since he'd never actually gone back to sleep after Naruto's attack. The dog lunged at the beeping machine and bit deep into it until the thing died away. When he heard a small groan, Guruko quickly turned back to the blonde he'd been lying next to. Naruto turned his head towards Guruko with a tired expression. I hate it too, but buying a new alarm clock is going to cost me money, you know, Naruto said softly. Giving a guilty start, Guruko moved closer and nuzzled Naruto's cheek, checking the small blonde for the high fever he possessed last night and almost all morning. Naruto stroked the dog tiredly as he did this, a small smile of amusement on the preteen's face. I'm okay, Naruto assured him as he sat up. The dog growled a warning at the blonde, angry that he would try to get up so soon after being in so much pain. Naruto gave the dog a pat on the head, but otherwise ignored the obvious reprimanding. Shhhh. It's not a big deal, Naruto told him, it happens 2 or 3 times a week. I'm not dying or in any kind of danger from it. Just a lot of pain, nothing I can't handle. Guruko's body tensed at the blonde's words, visibly shaken by the revelation. Kakashi would have a fit when he finds out. How long had it been going on? Naruto stumbled out of bed, taking a few moments to balance himself and take a steadying breath. The blonde turned to Guruko with hands on hips, eyes wearily watching the dog that stared back. There's not any kind of dog Morse code out there that you can use to tell Kakashi about this, is there? Naruto asked suspiciously. Guruko almost flinched, but thanks to some of Kakashi's personal training managed to keep it at bay. Guruko shook his head, which caused Naruto to sigh and mutter under his breath, something along the lines of just like Kakashi. Naruto picked up the dog and brought him into the kitchen with him before proceeding to carry on normally by pouring Guruko food and water, then putting the pot on for tea. Guruko watched all this in morbid fascination, eyes carefully trained on the blonde to make sure he didn't suddenly fall to the ground screaming. When the kettle whistled, Naruto hurriedly poured the tea, adding only a little of the precious sugar into the cup. Naruto then carefully sat down at the table, a slight wince escaping that caused Guruko to immediately jump to the preteen's side, eyes imploring. Naruto took a long breath before letting it out and looked down at Guruko, who stared up at him in alarm. Really, you don't have to act like a mother hen, the pain lingers a little, but by the time we get to the training grounds with Sasuke and Sakura it will be completely gone. You're not going, Guruko thought to himself. It wasn't obvious. In fact, if you weren't looking for it, you'd miss it, the look of total exhaustion on Naruto's features. Guruko already had been wondering how Naruto managed to work all day, every day without being tired, but this was ridiculous. So he'd watched closely since the blonde awoke, and finally came to the conclusion that it wasn't that the blonde wasn't tired or exhausted, it was that Naruto hit it nearly flawlessly. He suspected that the only reason it was nearly instead of perfectly was due to the fact that Naruto stopped pretending the moment he would get home. Guruko noticed that Naruto practically dissolved the moment he stepped through the door. These past 2 days he'd been staying at the apartment. His smile would drop, his body would release all of the built-up tension the dog didn't even know was there until it was gone, and this very worn-down expression would consume his features. When Naruto started to grab his shinobi attire, Guruko limped over to where he knew the blonde kept his pouch and weapons before biting a hold of it, dropping it onto the floor and promptly laying over it. When the blonde walked over, fully dressed, to see the dog on his weapons pouch, he let out a sigh of frustration. "Look, Guruko, I need to meet the others, so give it up, I need to train," Naruto said as he knelt down to take it. Guruko snarled at him to keep away, clearly getting his message across. Naruto retracted his hand and glared at the dog. "I'm not going back to bed. I'm not staying home. I'm completely fine, now give me my weapons," Naruto said in agitation. Guruko merely growled back. "I can be just as stubborn as you," Guruko thought. Naruto stood up and glared daggers at the dog before turning and heading towards the door. Guruko grabbed the weapons pouch in his mouth and limped over to the door until he stood in front of it, dropped the pouch and laid on it once more. "I don't have time to play with you, mutt," Naruto spat angrily. "I need to train so that I can get better missions so that I can afford to get the fuck out of here. Now move!" Guruko lowered his head a bit, startled at Naruto's tone. Never before in the last year of knowing the blonde or the last 2 days of staying at the preteen's apartment had Naruto ever been angry with him. "This is the exact reason I never tell any of my team about anything, because then they'd pull stupid shit like this," Naruto snarled as he eyed Guruko icily. "They could never understand how hard it is to simply live. Everything costs money: food, shelter, water, heat, electricity, clothes. Unlike them, I don't have everything handed to me on a silver platter. If I come to the bridge sick, they tell me to go home to get better, but if I don't work, I don't get paid. If I don't get paid, I don't get medicine or food or water or any of the things that make you better. No, I end up doing no work, not getting better and feeling even worse because they won't let me work. Now I need to leave," Naruto hissed at the dog. Naruto's anger rose when the dog refused to move. "I feel the love, really I do," Naruto said sarcastically. "I'm sure I'll feel the gnaw of starvation in my stomach when I can't get food and the freezing cold air when I can't pay for heating too." With every word, Guruko felt lower and lower before he eventually laid on the ground with his ears flat to his head. He'd not considered the consequences being so severe for the blonde. Kakashi never mentioned things being so difficult for any of his students, so the dog assumed they'd all been fairly well off, especially since the third Hokage himself looked after the welfare of Naruto, and now the fifth greatly cared for him. Had Naruto starved before? Had he been left to freeze as the blonde's words suggested he'd had? Guruko got up and moved away from the pouch, which Naruto quickly grabbed and fixed on his leg before the dog changed his mind. Guruko watched as Naruto opened the door and looked back straight at him, the blonde's motions hesitant. In a much softer voice than before he spoke, "If you still want to come to training grounds with me, you're welcome to. I'm sorry I yelled at you. I didn't mean to, I just sorta lost my temper. I just really need the money right now. Okay? I know you were only trying to do what you thought was best." Naruto trailed off, unsure of what else to say. Guruko limped over to the blonde and as Naruto bent down licked the blonde's cheek as a sign of forgiveness. Naruto gave him a small smile and picked the dog up to head out. The blonde made sure not to jar his leg down the 3 flights of stairs, and for that Guruko was thankful. After last night's jump to the bed, he'd been in more pain than when Kakashi first got the cast on with the vet touching it hard in order to see exactly what was broken. Suddenly Guruko felt the arms holding him tense, and his body pushed closer to the blonde's chest. Their pace quickened, no longer a soft ride as Naruto attempted to get out of the building without seeming rushed. Guruko peered around and found that the only other person around was a woman in her late 20s, just leaning against the wall next to the exit/entrance of the building. She was rather pretty, with silky black hair that touched her shoulders in just the right way, and piercing light brown eyes that seemed to miss nothing. As Naruto walked past her, Guruko was surprised to see the woman clamp her hand onto Naruto's shoulder. Naruto's grip tightened on the dog and the blonde's eyes took on a blank look that scared the crap out of Guruko. Guruko growled at the woman, warning her off, but she ignored him as if he was nothing but a cat. "Good morning, Naruto," the woman said sweetly. "I trust you had a wonderful night's sleep." Guruko could feel Naruto's fingers clenched slightly around his fur, under his body. Did this woman know about whatever hurt Naruto last night? Why did Naruto seem frightened of her? Guruko watched Naruto visibly struggle to get his emotions under control before slapping a grin on his face. Naruto turned towards her with a big toothy smile, hands no less tight on Guruko though. "My night was wonderful, I couldn't have slept better," Naruto said in a surprisingly sincere tone. There was a silence where both humans and dog knew Naruto was supposed to be courteous and ask, "Well, how was your night, ma'am?" Naruto never asked though, he just continued to smile and then slowly began backing up until he was at the doorway. "Can he talk?" she asked sweetly. Naruto looked down at Guruko wearily before shaking his head. No, he can't, Naruto said as he took another step backwards and turned. I have to go, bye. Naruto. The women called, causing Naruto to halt though hesitantly. I'm not a patient or nice woman, she said sternly. The toothy grin faltered before it fell completely. I know, Naruto said gravely before taking off without a single glance back. Naruto didn't stop until they reached the training grounds where Sasuke and Sakura were to meet him. Guruko found the conversation 10 minutes ago to be deeply disturbing, every few seconds peering up at Naruto, who seemed to be ignoring him, eyes focused straight ahead and nowhere else. Naruto gently set the dog down before proceeding to the nearest set of trees and withdrawing 4 kunai from his weapons pouch, 2 in each hand, each between a knuckle. Guruko watched as Naruto flung the deadly projectiles into the tree's bark with a tenacity, accuracy and viciousness he'd rarely ever seen from a genin. Guruko made sure to stay far from the blonde as the preteen continued. They were early, very early actually. Guruko wondered if Naruto came early every day to do this or if this was odd for the blonde. 2 hours later Guruko couldn't help but gap. Never once did Naruto slow down in his assault of the trees. Each time he ran out of kunai he would hurriedly rip them from the bark's hold only to begin again. Naruto didn't even seem particularly tired. In fact, the blonde was still overflowing with negative emotions. The killing intent the blonde held the entire time caused the dog a great deal of trouble since it made the air difficult to breathe. Guruko had been forced back 50 feet just to be able to handle the sheer force of will that was Naruto. 10 minutes before Sasuke and Sakura were to arrive, the blonde suddenly froze, just about to toss yet another kunai. The blonde peered behind him at the sun and deftly twirled the kunai before stashing it and closing his eyes. Guruko could hear Naruto mumbling to himself before the blonde shook himself not unlike a wet dog and took deep, deep breaths to calm himself down. Slowly, ever so slowly, the killing intent in the air wavered and died, just like that. Guruko watched in fascination as Naruto opened his eyes, walked over to the trees and began to wrench the kunai out to stash back in his bag. By the time Sasuke and Sakura arrived with their respective charges, Naruto seemed to be a completely different person. He sat on the grass, a broad smile on his face, and greeted his team as if he'd not just ripped apart several of the trees in the area. Sasuke surveyed their training ground till his eyes fell on top of the torn-apart trees. The pale preteen frowned deeply. Damn, Jounin have been training in our field again, Sasuke said irritably. Guruko gasped at the Uchiha. I know, right? Naruto agreed, his voice just as annoyed. Kaka-sensei was supposed to have talked to them about it. Guruko's head twisted 180 as the dog stared at Naruto in utter shock. Naruto patted Guruko's head, not even batting an eyelash as he blatantly lied to his team without the slightest hesitancy. Naruto stretched nonchalantly, easily ignoring Guruko's eyes boring into him. We should get started, huh? Naruto stated more than asked. Even after the 2 hours of early work Naruto performed before Team 7's training, the blonde worked through the normal exercises that were part of the team's regimen. Then through the chakra exercise that Sakura explained to the blonde, but not without insulting the preteen at least 3 different times through the explanation, much to Guruko's annoyance. The exercise was to keep a leaf atop the forehead with chakra, simple enough except that Naruto was having an extremely hard time with it. Guruko limped over to the sitting blonde, dark muttering escaping from his lips every few seconds when the leaf would flutter to the ground. Guruko lay beside the blonde, watching him carefully. As the leaf once more fluttered to the ground, Naruto glared at it venomously. I've got too much chakra for this stupid exercise to work, Naruto growled in irritation. Guruko could agree with that. The leaf exercise required a minimum amount of chakra, similar to the regular Bunshin Jutsu, which is why Naruto could not perform the said jutsu. Nevertheless, the blonde continued on his useless crusade, something Guruko wanted desperately to ask why when they both knew he would not be able to. Guruko peered at Sakura, the girl being carefully instructed by Sasuke each time her aim would be off. She probably held not even the smallest inkling about how much chakra her teammate had, and thus hadn't considered it when she gave the exercise to him. Guruko knew that Naruto would never mention this little fact to the Rosette though. Naruto kept all information about himself, and his power a tight-lipped secret. God damn it. Naruto swore as the leaf fell once more. Guruko's attention came back to the blonde. Why don't you just go and ask her for something that requires more chakra? Guruko wondered. The afternoon sun was at its highest when the team broke for a break. Sakura walked over with Pakin in her arms and shook her head at Naruto as he once more tried to keep the leaf attached to his forehead and failed. Naruto, that's by far one of the most simplest chakra exercises I know. Even academy students can easily do it. I can't believe that you're that untalented, Sakura said in exasperation. Guruko watched Naruto's fingers curl and shake, but the blonde quickly hid it by stuffing his hands into his jacket. Ah, Sakura-chan, that's harsh, Naruto said in a mock-hurt voice. Sakura just huffed and turned to Sasuke. Do you guys want to go eat lunch now? Sakura asked her teammates, though it was clearly more so directed at Sasuke. Guruko watched Naruto's face fall for a moment before the blonde forced his features into a grin. Where would you guys want to eat? Naruto asked happily. Sakura peered at him for a second, deep in thought. There's a really good buffet they have near the academy, Sakura said slowly, eyes towards Sasuke for her crush's approval. Sasuke shrugged and started walking in the direction of the academy with the hay right behind him, Sakura more than happy to hurry to his side with Pakin in her arms. Naruto's face fell into weary resignation before slowly turning back into a grin and walking over to Guruko. Naruto picked up Guruko and followed after his teammates, and the other two dogs at a slower pace. Guruko noticed how Naruto shoved a few leaves in his pockets on their way though. Naruto caught up to them, but instead of walking beside the two decided to stay directly behind them as they moved through the crowds. What are we going to do with the dogs? Naruto asked steadily. Sasuke gave Naruto an annoyed look, something Guruko was quickly becoming angry at. Kakashi's dogs are allowed in all public places within Konoha, Sasuke said dryly. Pakin gave an indignant snort at Naruto's question as well. Kakashi told us that a long time ago, Naruto, and it was in the instructions, Sakura added, and are you really that stupid tone of voice? Right. I remember, Naruto said slightly dejected, though neither of his teammates seemed to care. When they were outside the restaurant, Guruko felt Naruto's arms stiffen around him. Hey Sasuke, Sakura? Naruto said, much louder than necessary. They both turned toward him. I'll go ahead and grab the dogs something to eat if you take Guruko in for me. Go ahead and start eating cause I don't know how long I'll be. Okay? Naruto asked as he held out Guruko to Sasuke. Guruko gave a whine as Sasuke nodded and took him into his arms. Naruto turned and walked away as the rest of them entered the restaurant. Where the hell is he? Pakin growled out in his deep voice irritably as the dog's stomach growled at him. It was an hour and a half before Sasuke and Sakura finally got fed up with waiting for the blonde and left for the training grounds, 3 hungry dogs in tow. We'll get you some food on the way there, Sakura promised them as they turned down the main street. Guruko scanned the crowds, eyes trying to catch the orange jacket that stood out like the sun in the blue sky. Sorry. A loud familiar voice called out to the group, almost like he was waiting for us to leave the restaurant, Guruko thought, looking at he blonde with suspicion. Pakin once more growled at the small blonde who took a step back and would have raised his arms in surrender if not for the brown bag in his hands. I got their food, let's go ahead and head to the training field and they can eat there, Naruto said cheerfully. Sakura walked up to Naruto, her hair shadowing her face before she raised her fist and smacked the blonde's head with it. Naruto took a few steps back, not even the smallest bit surprised by the assault on his person. Guruko growled at the rosette, but the girl assumed that the growl was meant for Naruto. We were waiting for you for nearly 2 hours, you dimwit! Sakura cried out angrily. I know. I'm sorry, but the butcher had a lot of people in line so I had to wait a while, Naruto explained sheepishly. Sasuke sighed. I suppose we'll have to stop by somewhere to grab you something to eat then, Sasuke said aggravated. No need, Naruto assured. I grabbed a sandwich on my way back. With that they headed off to training. As they walked home around 4 that afternoon, Guruko couldn't help but shiver. Above him, Naruto focused his attention on the ground in front of him, head bent down as his feet hurriedly walked down the street. People either moved away from him as if the very air around him were the plague, or purposely tried to bump into him. Naruto was able to dodge all such attempts with an ease that clearly spoke of years of experience. The thought disturbed the dog greatly. He raised his hackles at a few, but Naruto would always stroke his fur soothingly, as if to comfort him. Guruko growled as one particularly large man with black bandages covering the entirety of his head barged past the much smaller blonde and glared down icily at the preteen as he simply and gracefully twirled around him, not once lifting his head from staring at the ground, and continued to walk. Naruto stroked back Guruko's pointy ears and his grip on the dog tightened a bit, though not uncomfortably so. Stop growling at people. You're gonna get me in trouble, you know. Naruto whispered quietly to the dog. Guruko gave a small snarl at the blonde, clearly not liking the idea of just letting the people get away with what they were doing. Naruto sighed heavily. That big guy you just growled at? Naruto asked softly as they continued to walk. He's an Umbu captain, someone even Kakashi would have trouble with. You should never have growled at him cause now he's angry at me. It was fine that I dodged, but it's bad if I show any reaction to stuff like that. It always comes back to bite me in the ass. So please just ignore it. Guruko huffed at the blonde as they entered Naruto's home. Soon after, Naruto poured a bowl of food for Guruko and placed it beside the table. I know you're not hungry now, but I won't be back till very late, so it's there for you, Naruto said as he filled up the water bowl next. Guruko grumbled, but it was more in amusement this time around. The blonde then proceeded to make an exceptionally comfy mini bed beside the big bed, created out of the only extra blanket Naruto had in his home. Then proceeded to check the heater to make sure it was warm enough for the dog. Then made sure all the windows were tightly shut against the cold of the night, and curtains drawn. It all reminded him of something Kakashi said about 2 months ago when the subject of Naruto came up. Give the boy an opponent and he becomes a calculating strategist bound to defeat the enemy with some ingenious scheme. Try to get the blonde to explain how he did it, and you'll just get a headache. Give the boy someone to care for, and he becomes an overprotective mother hen bound to drive you nuts with his carefulness. Try to ask why he cares so much or argue against it, and you'll suddenly become the opponent. Guruko rolled onto his back as he watched the blonde begin to boil water, then inwardly groaned as he poured rice into the pot. Does he eat anything but white rice and ramen? Guruko thought angrily. As the water boiled, Naruto made sure to water all of his precious plants, and to Guruko's immense bewilderment, Naruto actually talked to them. He went around the room talking softly, as if to keep from offending ears that did not exist, and told them all about his day. Kakashi's words came back to him. Naruto talks to everyone whether they can hear or understand him anyway. You have to remember that Naruto's been alone all his life. I often find him talking to himself while he trains just to fill the air with noise. I think it's just his way of trying not to feel too lonely. Guruko watched the blonde with sad eyes. He understood now. Naruto's obsession with plants, why so many and so well taken care of. They were the only company that Naruto ever got. Guruko had to wonder if he was the first guest that Naruto had ever had in his home before. So you don't like me either, huh? That's okay, not many people do, or animals I suppose in your case. No, he was definitely the first to be here. The rice was done cooking by the time Naruto made his round, the blonde eating his rice quickly and to the very last grain. Naruto somehow locked his door on the way out with Guruko in hands before they turned to exit the building. It was as they exited that Guruko noticed how the rest of the apartments, at least from what you could see of the outside, seemed to be much better kept up than Naruto's. Somehow Guruko knew that the worse-off condition of Naruto's home was in no way connected with Naruto's lack of care. Naruto kept his home extremely clean and dustless. The only thing not kept up was Naruto's always unmade bed, but Guruko guessed it was from Naruto's lack of knowledge on proper housekeep rather than laziness. Guruko sensed it 5 seconds before it happened. It took 4 for a bark to exit his mouth and gave Naruto only a single second to react. Naruto twisted the front of his body away from the wall he'd been walking beside, forcing his arms to encircle the dog and leaning his head forward over the dog's front, using as much of his small mass as a human shield as possible just as the attack came. It came as a full-on body slam by a much larger and stronger body into the wall he just turned away from. The man, using the full force of his larger mass and his forearm in front of him as the focus point of all his power, met the nearly unsuspecting blonde full-on. Naruto felt his head knock harshly against the wall, his brain doing a loop-de-loop inside his skull. A split second later the forearm came crashing against his throat, the scream that had been escaping the blonde's lips cutting off and trapping in his lungs so that they felt as if they'd burst. Then the rest of the man's body came crashing against his, pinning his legs against the wall as the enemy finally came to a stop. An object in motion will stay in motion till another object stops its motion. Simple physics, but Naruto was always one who hated that kind of logic anyway. Thankfully, Guruko was fine. Trapped between their bodies, angry beyond belief, having a difficult time breathing because of the pressure, mouth closed shut by one of Naruto's hands, but otherwise fine. Naruto's body successfully shielded him from the blow, which in itself angered him. The damn blonde was supposed to have done something to protect himself, not him. Guruko struggled to get free as he heard Naruto choking for air, the large body pinning him against the wall, refusing to let up pressure. If Naruto had dropped Guruko before the assault came, then the blonde's hands would be free right now instead of pinned down against his body and Guruko's. Guruko felt their bodies being raised into the air, the man pushing the small blonde up the wall with his forearm easily. Guruko could hear the sickening sound of flesh scraping against brick, something no human would be able to pick up. The dog tried to snarl, tried to wiggle free, but could feel that the only thing he was doing was causing Naruto pain by smashing into the blonde's already taxed lungs. Enjoying yourself? A deep male voice asked calmly as Naruto continued to choke for air. Suddenly their bodies fell to the ground, but Naruto never let Guruko fall out of his arms. Even in so much pain he refused to let the dog get hurt because someone had a personal vendetta against him. Naruto coughed harshly, hands moving up to his neck as he tried to breathe. Guruko burst out from Naruto's hold and viciously snarled at the tall, broad-shouldered man before him. Black hair with brown streaks all throughout its length, which sat almost proudly just beneath the man's tan ears. If Guruko could guess, he'd say the man was just over 30 years in age. He wore no ninja attire, nor did he have a headband, but no non-shinobi could move so fast. In fact, not many shinobi could move that fast. Narrowed eyes of a deep brown stared down and past Guruko at the blonde behind him, still gasping for air. Guruko snarled again to garner the man's attention from Naruto. Guruko tried to lunge at the man, but his body slammed against some kind of chakra barrier around the man. Guruko yelped as the left side of his face went numb, and he could no longer feel his nose. The man laughed darkly. Well, it seems you've got yourself a cute little guard dog, one of Kakashi's to boot. The man whispered out softly. Naruto continued to cough harshly, unknown to Guruko. His windpipe had been crushed and his bijou was weaving his chakra into the blonde's throat to heal it as quickly as possible. Blood dripped to the floor from Naruto's lips, his wet, hacking cough horrible to hear. Guruko didn't see the blood though. His eyes were trained on the enemy as he moved between Naruto and the man. He would try to attack again, But then that would leave Naruto wide open for another assault, which the blonde wouldn't be able to handle if he couldn't breathe. I hope you enjoy your day, Naruto. I have some work that needs my attention at headquarters. The man said simply, and with that was swept away by an array of leaves. Cough, cough, cough. Guruko turned to see a stream of blood dripping steadily onto the cement as Naruto held his throat, which to the dog's horror was turning a deep black very quickly. Guruko nudged Naruto to stand, pulling at the blonde's sleeves. Naruto shakily complied, first on hands and knees before steadily trying to life his body further. The dog watched in panic as Naruto's entire body shuddered before dipping toward the ground again, the blonde only just managing not to knock his head against the cement. Cough, cough, cough. Guruko threw his head up and howled loudly, seeking the attention of anyone nearby. Guruko limped down the hall, eyes searching for any soul nearby. That's when he saw a glimpse of someone just entering their door, all the way down the hall, with a bag of groceries in her arms. It was the woman from earlier. Guruko didn't want this woman to know he could talk, but Guruko howled loudly, limping down the hall as the women turned towards him. Well, if it isn't little Naruto's dog. You didn't seem to like me this morning, why the change of heart? The women asked in amusement. Guruko whimpered and howled again, turning around and limping back. The women got his message and followed him. Guruko knew that for some reason Naruto greatly disliked this woman, that he even seemed afraid of her, but Naruto's life was in danger. When the women turned the corner and spotted Naruto coughing up blood and clutching his throat, she immediately swooped down and sat in front of him to assess the damage. Cough, cough, cough. Naruto's eyes widened as she took his chin in her hands and examined his neck. Guruko watched wearily as he saw Naruto attempt to back away from her, but was too weak with his oxygen-deprived mind to put up much of a fight, especially when the woman's grip tightened. It appears that you're in a predicament, aren't you, little one? She asked softly, eyes boring into his. Naruto's eyes were beginning to roll into the back of his head. If I heal this, will you come this weekend? I'll be having a friend over as well. She asked in that stern voice Guruko heard earlier. Naruto's entire frame stiffened. Guruko wanted to snarl at the women and at the same time whimper for her to help him. He was so confused as to what was going on. Kyuubi will be able to heal this, so either way you'll live, she said in a clipped voice. However, he won't be able to heal it in time for you to avoid a few weeks in the hospital. Then you'll be behind in your bills again. That wouldn't be very nice now, would it? Hospital bills, rent and other things, she asked softly. Naruto continued to cough, the blood coming without stop, tears of pain unwillingly dripping from the blonde's eyes. Guruko whimpered beside him, nudging the blonde and glaring angrily at the women. To use a situation like this to get Naruto to agree to something? It was unimaginably cruel. Naruto shook his head, forcefully wrenching himself from her grip, and backed away. The effort was immense though, he'd already been unable to breathe for several minutes. Naruto coughed up a rather large lump of blood before laying his head on the ground. Guruko whimpered from beside Naruto's head before growling fiercely at the black-haired women. What can I do? He refuses to take my help, the women said calmly to the dog. Guruko pulled on Naruto's sleeve, who weakly stared back at him before turning his head ever so slightly to the women and giving her a slight nod, and then succumbing to unconsciousness. A wicked smile graced the beautiful woman's face before her hands glowed a greenish hue of healing chakra. She quickly went to work, first and foremost opening the windpipe back up. Naruto painfully gasped for air, his chest barely moving up and down as the beautiful women proceeded to force air into the lungs while simultaneously aiding the Kyuubi to stitch the windpipe up. Guruko watched in sheer terror as the boys' breathing hitched horribly and the wet coughs grew worse as air came in to fuel them. The dog whined piteously as Naruto's pale face slowly but surely grew tan once more. When after 45 minutes passed by and the green hue of chakra finally vanished, Naruto's chest moved easily up and down, though the blood all around him like some sick ritual was disconcerting. The woman wiped her brow with her sleeve before smirking to herself and looking down at the dog and boy before her. Guruko couldn't help but shiver at the cold gleam that shone in the women's eyes. He won't be going anywhere tonight, that's for sure, the woman said to herself. Guruko watched her wearily, and as she went to pick up the boy, Guruko placing himself firmly between the blonde and the beautiful women. She snorted in amusement. Do you want me to leave him in the hall like this, or would you like me to take him back to his room? The women asked. Guruko, whose hackles had raised and hair was ruffled, forcefully calmed down and stepped aside. The beautiful woman placed her arms under his legs and behind his back before she lifted him off the dirty floor and cradled him against her rather large chest. Guruko limped after her as she headed for Naruto's apartment, rummaging through the blonde's pocket for the key and awkwardly opening the door, similar to Naruto's own plight just about an hour beforehand. She walked into the apartment without further ado and across the living room/kitchen to enter the bedroom. She took her time, examining everything within the apartment before setting Naruto down on the bed, her fingers lightly tracing the jacket and then caressing the bloodied face, pushing back a strand of straw-colored hair. He really is adorable, isn't he? She asked the dog in a lilting tone. Without saying anything else, she turned and walked out the door, closing it behind her. Guruko never left Naruto's side that night, listening carefully for even the smallest amount of difficulty breathing. Luckily, it appeared that the beautiful woman Naruto was so terrified of knew her medical jutsu well. Naruto didn't awake until late the next morning, far past the time to meet Sasuke and Sakura for training, incredibly too late for the appointment, and there was no question that Naruto would get into trouble for missing work. When the small blonde finally stirred from the deep healing sleep he'd been placed in, Guruko made sure he was right there beside him. Naruto's eyes tiredly cracked open, the familiar icy blue staring at the dog for several long moments, dulled by lingering pain. Naruto slowly sat up, leaning heavily against the wall, before his gaze fell to his lap and stayed there. Guruko moved cautiously up to the blonde, resting his muzzle on Naruto's knee and staring up at him. Guruko blinked in surprise when he found tears streaming down the face above him, the lips trembling with suppressed sobs that eventually escaped in the form of hiccups. Naruto's entire frame shook with them. Guruko moved forward and leaned against Naruto's chest, a whimper escaping the dog's throat. The action caused what little control Naruto possessed over his emotions to break. Naruto buried his face into the dog's fur as sobs racked his entire body. His hands pulled the dog in and hugged him tightly, desperately trying to garner comfort from the only companion to ever see him break down. Guruko nuzzled Naruto's face, licking the tears from the preteen's eyes. For a long time they just sat there in that position, a heartbroken expression adorning Naruto's features, a helpless feeling overwhelming Guruko. When Naruto spoke, his voice came out in a harsh whisper, still healing from the injury obviously. "I should get you another appointment," Naruto whispered painfully. The dog looked up at Naruto stunned. "No! You need to tell someone what the man did," Guruko thought ferociously. Why wasn't Naruto telling anyone about these horrible things happening to him? Why would he keep it a secret if he could get away from these people and be safe? Naruto still shook terribly, obviously shaken up and in pain from the experience yesterday. Naruto sniffled and wiped his nose on his sleeve. "Kakashi Kaka-sensei is going to be so mad," Naruto said softly, tightly hugging Guruko. "Yes, he's going to be furious that this happened," Guruko thought. "He'll hunt down that man and make him pay for sure." "I can't believe I missed your appointment," Naruto said, reprimanding himself. "I'm so stupid sometimes." Guruko gaped at Naruto. The blonde had been assaulted last night, and if not for the fact that he was a Jinchuriki, he would have most likely have died before the beautiful women even got to him, yet he was worried about some godforsaken appointment. He'd been sobbing just a minute ago, for goodness sake. Naruto set Guruko to the side and unsteadily got out of bed, much to the dog's growing horror. Naruto sniffled and looked around. "I need to stop by work and apologize later too," Naruto said as he moved away and began going through the routine of getting ready for the day, as if he not just suffered a life-threatening injury. "Are you crazy?" Guruko thought. "Get back in bed." Guruko growled at the blonde, who seemed to not even hear him. "I need to do laundry today too," Naruto said quietly as he pulled out a set of clothes and set them on the bed. Guruko barked loudly at the blonde, but still Naruto didn't seem to hear him. Naruto tugged off his clothes and let them drop to the ground, exposing his black and blue neck and causing the dog to wince. Naruto walked into the bathroom and soon after Guruko heard the sound of the shower starting. Guruko shifted uncomfortably in the blonde's strong arms, the blue vest-like jacket with a frowny face on its back scrunched up till it stopped at his neck with every sudden jerk of Naruto's movements, and the forehead protector he wore proudly around his neck would slap against his chin every time the young shinobi had jumped from one roof to the next. The dog could feel his soft, slightly short brown fur get pulled each time the preteen turned his body. Guruko felt his pointed ears twitch in annoyance. Yes, the small wolf-like dog was not happy being a passenger. His white muzzle allowed a short growl to escape his pointy teeth-infested mouth as they dropped from the final rooftop. Naruto blinked and looked down at the dog, smiling sheepishly as he realized he'd forgotten the dog, even while they were heading to the vet. "Sorry," Naruto whispered. When they finally turned onto the Inuzuka compound early that Thursday afternoon, Guruko was in an extremely foul mood. It was made all the worse by the fact that Naruto wore a big grin on his face the size of Fire Country and possessed an all-around cheerful attitude. It caused the dog to wonder if Naruto ever came to Kakashi's training sessions with such fake emotions. If Guruko hadn't witnessed Naruto's breakdown and all-around broken aura for the last couple hours inside the apartment, he never in a million years guessed the blonde before him was deeply hurting. He thanked whatever god there was up there that Naruto didn't know that he could talk, because he severely doubted that Naruto would have allowed him to see such dark emotions so easily. At the gates, they were greeted by a tall young woman with the traditional red canine markings on her cheeks and long bound-up straight, brown hair. "Hello there, Uzumaki-kun. Kakashi told me you'd be bringing Guruko to his appointment. I've been fairly worried since you didn't show up." "What happened?" Guruko yipped happily at the sight of Hana Inuzuka, to which the women frowned, wondering if there was something wrong with his vocal cords. Naruto, on the other hand, blushed horribly red. "Kun?" Naruto whispered hoarsely in a surprised voice, throat still hurting him some. It took a moment for Guruko to understand why Naruto would react to such a simple and common form of expression before he remembered that Naruto was a Jinchuriki. Jinchuriki were not called by any type of honorific by anyone, they were considered to be beneath such a human reference. Not even Naruto's teammates, or any of the rookies ever referred to Naruto with Kun, despite the fact that none of them knew about him being a Jinchuriki. They had long ago subconsciously learned Naruto didn't deserve it through the reactions of the adult citizens and shinobi around them. Guruko snorted in annoyance. Humans could be truly stupid sometimes. Despite the fact that Naruto's DNA and chakra pathways had been slightly altered to handle the immense and potent chakra within his body, there was nothing else that separated him from a normal human. He could easily be compared to a special human, or one that possessed a blood limit. Just because the power Naruto possessed was 10 times more powerful than a normal blood limit, didn't mean that the silly humans had to run around like chickens with their heads cut off, afraid they would die if Naruto simply made a single wrong or threatening move. This, Guruko knew, was preposterous. Naruto, as Kakashi many times would talk about with either annoyance or extreme pride, had one of the kindest hearts in existence. Annoyance because it meant that Naruto wanted to help every person who wasn't happy when they went on missions and find some extremely time-consuming way to do it. A great deal of pride because it meant that Naruto wanted to help every person who wasn't happy when they went on missions despite the harshness of his own life. Naruto leaned forward in a short bow. I'm very sorry. Something came up last night that I couldn't avoid. It's no excuse, but I hope you'll forgive me for wasting your time. I was hoping to set up another appointment if that's possible, Naruto said politely. Guruko was quite shocked. Naruto never showed anyone manners. Kakashi could oftentimes be found muttering about disrespectful blondes when he complained about his students to his dogs. Naruto was practically famous for it. It seemed that all that got Naruto to be polite was a show of manners to him first. Hana Inuzuka smiled warmly down at the blonde as she waved for him to come inside. Naruto did so and followed her all the way to the back room where he carefully set Guruko down, making extra sure not to jar the dog's leg. I have plenty of time for an appointment right now actually, Hana said thoughtfully as she pulled down supplies from a cabinet. I would really appreciate that, Naruto said gratefully, a relieved sigh escaping him. Hana nodded absent-mindedly as she set down all she needed onto the cold metal table. Uzumaki-kun, my brother is in the backyard practicing one of our family's jutsus. I'm sure he would be very happy to see you if you'd like to go talk to him while I work on Guruko, Hana said as she finally looked up at the blonde. Naruto blushed scarlet again at the honorific before a contemplative look crossed his face. Guruko watched as Naruto's gaze finally settled on him. Will you be alright here without me? Naruto asked hesitantly. Guruko suppressed the urge to sigh in exasperation. Kakashi was totally right. Naruto was a complete mother hen. Instead, the dog yipped happily and wagged his tail, leaning forward and licking Naruto's face. Naruto nodded at him, scratching behind the dog's ear before finally departing to head toward the backyard. Now was the dog's chance. When the blonde disappeared from sight, Hana turned on him with a sharp gleam in her eyes. Why exactly are you suddenly playing mute? Hana demanded. The last time I checked, it's a task to get you to not complain about something. Ouch, that wasn't necessary, Guruko thought. I did it so that Naruto wouldn't know I can speak, Guruko said honestly. Hana frowned at him and crossed her arms. Why? Guruko flinched a bit at the question. Lying wasn't an option, but now he felt rather horrible about his reasoning. I thought Naruto would annoy me to death if he knew I could talk back, Guruko said slowly. Hana scowled at him. With all the crap that boy puts up with and the fact that he is taking care of you, the very least you could do is talk with him. God only knows how much the boy could use someone to be nice to him. I've even heard Kiba sometimes coming home from the academy talking about how funny it was to see the idiot fail. Mother gave him a good rinsing of the mouth when she heard it, though that doesn't mean he didn't do it behind our backs afterwards, Hana said sadly. Guruko shrunk at the omission and he couldn't help but feel even lower for it, though he supposed that was her point. I actually have a good reason now, Guruko said defensively, but his tone turned serious as Hana gave him a dark look. I need you to inform the Hokage on a few things I witnessed while with Naruto. Hana paid rapt attention as Guruko told her everything while she worked on his leg and rewrapped it in new casts, her face paling considerable as he neared the end. She collapsed in her chair, hands shaking as Guruko finally ended with talking about the blonde's breakdown that morning. God, oh God, Hana whispered. Guruko nodded in agreement. Whoever that woman is, she seems to have him trapped in something, Guruko said thoughtfully, and Naruto wants nothing to do with it. Hana appeared deeply distraught by the news. He's even younger than Kiba though, she whispered. Guruko couldn't say anything to that, so he just ignored it. I want Naruto to continue to think I can't speak. As long as he believes that, then he won't attempt to hide anything from me, Guruko said as he tested out how much weight he could get away with putting on his leg. For a moment Guruko wasn't sure if the young woman before him heard, but she eventually nodded in understanding. Hana stood up, carefully picking Guruko up and placing him on the ground. Don't worry, I'll inform the Hokage immediately. Now you'll be able to at least limp around without any pain, Hana said as she walked down the hall toward the backyard. That doesn't mean I want you know, Guruko muttered just loud enough for Hana to hear as he limped after her. Normally she would have burst out laughing, but as the circumstances were glum she just gave him a weak smile. As they neared the backyard they heard Naruto and Kiba talking. Totally just thought they were paint like Chuji's swirls. You gotta tell me how you got them. Kiba's loud voice shouted out. Kiba, will you stop it? Naruto asked irritably. Who'd you get to tattoo them on at your age? Kiba asked incredulously. They're not tattoos. Naruto said overly loud in indignation. Come on. They so are too. I promise I won't tell anyone. Kiba said loudly. Guruko and Hana walked into the backyard to find Kiba leaning into Naruto's face, poking his possession marks, the blonde leaning back in his seated position on the ground, an incredibly uncomfortable look on his face. Kiba! Don't be rude! Back up immediately! Hana snarled out. Now what Kiba was doing in no way warranted a snarl, but unfortunately he'd picked the wrong time to antagonize the blonde who'd just been the topic of discussion. Kiba backed up as if he'd been burned, giving his sister the hurt puppy dog eyes to which she stared back indifferently. Akamaru, who'd previously been lying down content to watch the scene in amusement, got up to stand beside his partner. Guruko couldn't help but wince sympathetically in Naruto's direction. He knew that the blonde's possession marks was a sensitive subject because they declared to the world that he was a Jinchuriki. On top of that, the 6 whisker marks on his cheeks happened to be incredibly sensitive to touch. Like a cat's whiskers, he'd found it out when he'd first met the blonde and Bull licked his face. Naruto flinched back involuntarily before he burst out laughing insanely loud and long. It took him several minutes to calm down, and many strange looks from the blonde's teammates, after which Naruto quietly explained to the dogs that depending on what emotion the person, or in this case animal, are feeling when they touch his possession marks, he gains an explosion of those very emotions within him. Since Bull had been extremely excited to meet the team and overall happy, and those emotions were multiplied when he'd licked the blonde, Naruto had been overcome with an unbearable amount of happiness. Naruto looked downright relieved from the halt of Kiba's poking to his possession marks, his hand unconsciously brushing against them for a moment before the appendix dropped back to his side. Guruko watched Hana carefully, afraid the young woman would let her emotions overwhelm her judgment about letting Naruto know that she knew. She kept her cool though. Uzumaki-kun, Guruko is good to go. I'll expect you back here in a week for his next checkup, Hana said sweetly if not a little sternly, as if the blonde would suddenly decide to disappear. Naruto nodded, clearly confused by the strange tone the young woman spoke to him with. Kiba, for what it was worth, appeared to be pouting and muttering under his breath. Guruko limped over to the blonde who, without even thinking about it, picked the dog up into his arms and adjusting him so that the headband around the dog's neck didn't bite into his chest. Guruko wagged his tail. Hana shook her head at him. Kiba was still muttering in the background. You know our mother is out of town all week, Hana spoke up thoughtfully. Me and my brother could use your guys' company for dinner tonight if you're willing. While our clan is big, we prefer to eat with only our inner family and packed mates so dinner will be lonely. Kiba gaped at his sister, completely taken by shock. Since when did she invite someone who's not dateable to eat dinner with them besides his team? Naruto, on the other hand, positively glowed in embarrassed pleasure. We would love to, Naruto said, hands practically squeezing Guruko's guts out. Guruko gasped for air, whining pathetically in the blonde's arms. Oops, sorry Guruko, Naruto said sincerely when he realized what he was doing. Hana laughed heartily as she began to walk toward the Inuzuka's kitchen. Good. Then be here by 4:30 tonight. Hana yelled back over her shoulder. It must be that time of the month, Kiba muttered to himself, as if that could be the only explanation. Kiba turned to Naruto and shrugged. Sorry she dragged you into coming, man. I know you probably got better things to do, Kiba said apologetically. The natural smile on Naruto's face became a bit strained at the comment, but this went unnoticed by both Kiba and Guruko. It sounds like a lot of fun, Naruto said hesitantly. Kiba snorted. Yeah, listening to her talk about her current heartbreak boyfriend is a real blast, Kiba said sarcastically. Naruto's smile strained a little more. It can't be all that bad, Naruto said cheerfully. Kiba laughed, gasping for air slightly and wiping away a fake tear. The brunette clamped a hand onto Naruto's shoulder as he gained control of his breathing. Seriously man, it's scary. I'd run away in terror if I were you, Kiba advised. I'll see you later. Naruto walked slowly back towards the apartment with a tight smile on his face, obviously having a much more difficult time keeping it up than on the way to the Inuzuka compound, something that took Guruko nearly the whole way there to notice. At one point he'd had to excuse himself for a potty break in the woods, and when he'd returned it was to catch a small glimpse of a frown fighting for space on the blonde's lips. When they finally entered the apartment, Naruto finally let the frown win and sat dejectedly on his bed, letting Guruko move off his lap to turn and stare at the blonde with a questioning look. When the blonde remained silent, Guruko nudged his hand atop his head, when Naruto began to scratch him. Naruto peered over at the dog sadly. I don't think I should go, Naruto said quietly. Guruko cocked his head, startled. What? Why? Guruko thought, bewildered. It was several long moments before Naruto spoke again. He seemed mad, didn't he? Naruto half asked the dog, half asked himself. About Hana-san inviting me to eat dinner with them. I thought after the Chunin exams that Kiba could at least stand me. Naruto trailed off. But even if I told Hana-san I would go, Maybe I shouldn't keep it. Did say he didn't want me to come and he's the one I've known for years, but I already told her I would, Naruto said, falling into silence for several minutes at each pause. Guruko stared at him. It seemed he was doing an awful lot of that lately, in surprise. It was becoming increasingly difficult to place this blonde, this hesitant, thoughtful, reflective and sad blonde, into the same image as the overconfident, loud, happy and brash preteen that belonged to Team 7. Did Naruto always look at conversations in such a negative light? Guruko tugged at Naruto's sleeve, forcing the blonde to look at him, before nodding his head vigorously up and down to confirm that Naruto needed to go. You should definitely go, it will be good for you, Guruko thought. Naruto watched his actions, letting the dog's message sink in. Are you sure? I mean, Kiba. Naruto trailed off as Guruko nodded again, though this time slower. Naruto began to wring his hands nervously as he stood up and started pulling random things out of places. After a few minutes of watching him in amusement, Guruko saw Naruto sit in the middle of his room, an expression of being utterly lost adorning his face. Truthfully, the scene was adorable, like a toddler that was told to look for their teddy in their room when it was sitting on the kitchen counter. What am I supposed to do? Naruto asked out loud. Guruko raised an eyebrow at the blonde. Naruto looked at Guruko and sighed. Should I cook some rice to bring over? Should I try to find something nice to wear? Is there something I'm supposed to do beforehand? No one's ever invited me to spend time with them before, Naruto said, by now a complete nervous wreck. That sent Guruko for a loop. Surely Kakashi at least had asked the blonde to spend time with him, for lunch or to teach him something or just to spend the afternoon with the blonde. He had to have at some point, especially since Guruko knew for a fact that Kakashi invited Sakura several times to lunch to discuss genjutsu and techniques related to it in some way, and spent nearly a month solely with Sasuke when training him for the Chunin final exam. What about the picnic they'd write? That was Naruto's idea. He'd suggested it, and practically forced the others to agree to it. Damn it, Naruto cursed as he sat down on the bed again. I wish you could talk back. Naruto brought his knees up to his chest and laid his head on them. I'll just make some special rice and then I'll wear my headband around my neck and leave my jacket and weapons at home, Naruto muttered to himself. And hope that I'm not screwing something up again. Guruko was sorely tempted to say something but refrained himself. It all caused the dog to wonder though, was this how Naruto made decisions when he didn't know what was socially acceptable? When he simply didn't know something, period? You think Sasuke and Sakura will be angry with me for not showing up today? Naruto asked as he let his legs fall into an Indian style before him. Guruko snorted. Naruto was doing it again. He'd ask the question and then spend the next hour or so answering it without even the slightest worry about whether anyone heard him or not. Naruto got off the bed and started picking up laundry. I bet I know exactly what they'd say, Naruto told Guruko, who for the most part ignored him, curling into a ball to rest. I bet they only waited there for a few minutes after we're supposed to meet before Sakura started screaming about how much of an idiot I am, and that she'll knock some sense into me when I finally show up, Naruto said as he moved to dump a small pile of clothes into an old broken hamper. When I don't show up, she'll huff and complain to Sasuke about how annoying I am. Naruto got out a large tin bucket from the closet, the length nearly 3 times his size and height reaching his waist. Then Sasuke will suggest that they just get started and that the dobe would pay later, Naruto shouted out as he pulled it into the bathroom and began to fill it to the brim with warm water. Then when it came time for missions, they'll complain about me again before picking out ones that wouldn't require a great deal of hard labor. I bet you $100 that both of them hate hard labor outside of training. They only are willing to get tough ones every day cause my shadow clones make up for so much of the work. Naruto huffed out as he pulled the large bucket of warm water into the middle of the floor. Naruto then poured soup into the water, missing the soup into the water with his arm. Right now they're most likely in the middle of doing those missions and will more than likely to end it early today, Naruto told Guruko. Then tomorrow when I show up they'll start yelling and stuff. Sakura will probably hit me on the head for being an idiot. As Naruto said this, his arms slowed down in its stirring, eyes focused on the swirling water. Naruto stood up and picked the hamper up, dumping all the clothes inside and smashing it down under the surface with his hand. Naruto burst out laughing as he brought out a long rectangle-like piece of metal that looked like a shutter from a window and put it in the water as well, holding the edge of it out with one hand. I bet they won't even ask me why I never showed up too. It won't even cross their minds. I bet that with every penny I've got that they won't, Naruto said with another laugh. The dog shivered. It wasn't funny in the least and Guruko hated to admit it, but Naruto was probably right. Naruto's hands shook a bit as he dragged a pair of pants across the metal piece, up and down in a rhythmic fashion. I gotta admit, I know it's stupid, but I gotta admit I've been telling myself something over and over since I got on Team 7, Naruto said in a softer voice as he continued to do laundry. Guruko listened intently, and if not for the fact that he was a dog with better than average hearing, he would have missed it. I told myself that they'd come for me if something bad happened. It helped me sleep at night, you know? I know it's stupid and I shouldn't have, but I wanted them to knock on my door this morning to see if I was okay. I know that's stupid and selfish, Naruto said with a shaky breath. He continued on to the next piece of clothing. That was horrible of me, I shouldn't have wanted that. It would have just caused problems. Naruto scrubbed harshly at a poor shirt. I just wish sometimes I just want them. Naruto stopped his movements and stared into the slightly mucky water beneath him. Sometimes I pretend that they care as much about me as I do them. Naruto finally whispered. Guruko flinched. Naruto was scarily quiet after that. He finished the laundry and then proceeded to open his window and hang them out to dry. Without another word, Naruto retreated into the bathroom. Guruko couldn't help but feel an air of foreboding within the little home, one that sent shivers through his small body. Something seemed incredibly off, but the dog quietly settled down nonetheless for the long wait as the shower could be heard turning on. Guruko was scared shitless. Naruto reemerged from the bathroom in an incredibly happy state. He gave the dog a wide grin and talked animatedly about some mission or other while he took special care to cook the white rice, adding a good deal of precious herbs for flavor. Something he didn't do for his own food except for very special occasions, but because they were going to the Inuzukas it was worth it. The blonde hummed a tune Guruko didn't recognize as he went about the kitchen, adding this and that to the pot. Strangely enough, Naruto came out of the bathroom wearing his jacket, the sleeves pulled down all the way when normally Naruto kept them rolled up to the middle of his forearm to keep them out of the way when he sparred with his team. The sight of the article of clothing touching his fingertips looked strange and caused the blonde to appear even smaller than normal. Guruko stared at the blonde wearily. The emotional 180s the preteen was pulling on him today was wearing the dog out. He wasn't sure if Naruto was merely trying to hide how upset he was or if he was genuinely excited about going. While Guruko realized over the past few days that most of smiles the blonde wore were fake and strained, that in no way meant that he could tell the difference between a real smile and a fake one. Naruto was just too good at his act, and if Guruko didn't see the evident change, the dog would never have been able to pick up on the fact that Naruto was faking it in the least. After placing the rice in one of the few containers he owned and getting dressed, Naruto stood in front of the mirror with Guruko beside him. Naruto grinned cheekily down at the dog. So how do I look? Naruto asked. Guruko barked happily and wagged his tail. Just as Naruto mumbled earlier, he indeed wore his headband around his neck along with a long-sleeved black shirt and his orange pants. You're just saying that, Naruto said teasingly as he tugged at a strand of hair. Naruto's bangs, which had grown quite a bit and needed to be cut, fell slightly into his eyes, giving him a shaggy appearance. Naruto mumbled something incoherently as he pushed them behind his ear, a few strands still slipping away and back, framing his face nicely. Naruto bent down in front of Guruko and gently fixed the dog's slightly rumpled headband, Guruko thanking him by licking his face. Hey, I got a deal for you, Naruto whispered to the dog as if what he had to say was an evil secret. If I totally embarrass myself or I'm doing something wrong and I don't know it, pretend you're having a horrible stomach ache so that we can go home, okay? Naruto asked. Guruko snickered in amusement but once more licked Naruto to confirm that he would indeed bail him out if the need arrived. Naruto sighed in relief and patted Guruko gratefully on the head. The dog leaned into the touch without hesitation. It was then that Guruko realized that Naruto was quickly becoming his best friend. Who would have thought that it could happen so much as a week ago? In the pack, Pakin was Kakashi's best pack mate. Of course, each of the dogs held a special place in the retired Umbu's heart, and spent a great deal of time with each, but the fact still remained that Pakin was the oldest and strongest of bonds among the dogs. Kakashi was his pack mate, and as far as he was concerned the alpha male, but Naruto was becoming a pack mate at an astounding speed as well. How would he handle it when he had to go back at the end of the month to Kakashi? It was an unrealistic idea that he could take Naruto with him like a lost and alone pup. On the other hand, he couldn't stay with Naruto because Kakashi needed him for the numerous and dangerous missions assigned to him. Even with this month of missions, the man was taking a risk by leaving behind 3 of his dogs, especially Pakin, who was the best tracker. Guruko whined at the thought. Hey, are you okay, buddy? Naruto asked as he continued to scratch behind the dog's ear. The movement of the blonde's hand stopped. You didn't hit your head, did you? I'm not hurting you by scratching you, am I? Naruto asked softly. Guruko shook his head at the mother hen of a shinobi above him. Seriously, for a kid that had so many problems himself, he sure as hell worried a lot about others. It was a sadistic irony that not many cared if the kid dropped dead. Guruko yipped happily and tugged at Naruto's arm playfully. Naruto laughed and scratched his head in just the right spot, making the dog sigh contentedly. We should get going. It's already a little past 4 and it takes 10 minutes to walk over there, Naruto said as he picked the dog up and grabbed the shoulder bag with the container of rice in it. A nervous Naruto was truly an adorable thing. All the way to the Inuzuka compound, Naruto blushed horribly and would repeatedly be peering backwards as if looking for an escape route. So distracted was he that Naruto didn't even appear to hear any of the normal whispers that followed the blonde everywhere he went. Guruko periodically glared at anyone who so much as dared to look at his friend wrong, but didn't growl for fear of pulling Naruto's attention to the people around him instead of the dinner ahead of him. If Kiba so much as insulted Naruto in any way, he swore the kid would lose a limb. When they finally arrived at the gates and followed the path to the front door, Naruto looked as if he would have a heart attack as he hesitantly knocked. Words from earlier that day floated into Guruko's mind as he gazed up at Naruto in concern. No one's ever invited me to spend time with them before. Guruko felt his chest tighten a little. If that was really the truth, then Naruto was probably petrified then. Guruko shifted in the blonde's arms and nudged his nose up to touch Naruto's cheek. Naruto couldn't help but let out a snort of laughter as the cold nose tickled him, the action causing the blonde to relax a great deal. Naruto peered down at the dog in his arms and smiled gratefully at him. Thanks. The door opened, causing Naruto's head to snap up and his back to strain a bit unconsciously. Hana Inuzuka stood there, a warm smile spreading on her face as saw Naruto. Uzumaki-kun, I'm so happy you're here. Come on in, Hana said as she pulled the door fully open. Naruto's blush turned scarlet once more at the honorific, still taken by surprise that anyone would use it in reference to him. Naruto walked in and followed Hana into the dining room to find quite the surprise. Kiba sat at the table with Shino and Hinata on either side of him. The table seated 6, leaving the other side empty. Naruto took a seat directed across from Kiba, feeling extremely awkward to the fact that it was 3 facing 1, increasing the empty hollow spot in his stomach telling him he shouldn't be here. Guruko felt Naruto's discomfort rolling off of him and cringed at the smile the blonde wore. Kiba would lose a leg later, that was for sure. The young Inuzuka managed to cause Naruto a great deal of hurt simply by accident. It was utterly ridiculous how completely unwelcoming this accidental arrangement managed to appear, and Guruko knew for a fact that Naruto was taking it the wrong way. Naruto, Kiba said, scratching his cheek in embarrassment. My sister's boyfriend's gonna be here any minute, and I'm sure that she'd like to sit by him. So the blush from before came back full force as Naruto realized his mistake in taking the middle seat. It would remain a permanent fixture throughout the whole meal. Both legs, Guruko thought heatedly. He's going to lose both legs. Sorry, Naruto cried out as he immediately moved over and sat in front of Hinata, who seemed to be competing with him for blush of the year. Hana came back into the room and set down a large pot roast in the middle of the table. She peered over at a fuming Guruko and a blushing Naruto and then stared at Kiba with a suspicious glare before turning back to Naruto. She tapped the blonde on the shoulder before pointing to Guruko. Our dogs usually eat beside us on the floor, just cause it's easier for each of us to eat that way, Hana said gently. Naruto nodded before hesitantly putting the dog on the ground. Guruko huffing and grumbling under his breath to the point it sounded like growling. So what you been up to lately, Naruto? Kiba asked with a big grin as he attempted to pull a piece of pork from the dish. His hand was thwarted by a slap from Hana and a stern threat of death if he so much as touch it. I'm pretty much just a lot of work, Naruto said, trying not to talk too much since he didn't want to annoy anyone. What about you guys? Naruto asked. Kiba's grin widened as he went into a tale about a B-rank mission involving gathering information on an old merchant who'd been suspected of dealing in drugs. Turned out it was the guy's son, and the old merchant was just trying to cover it up after discovering it 2 months back. Every time Kiba's boasting would get out of hand, Shino would interject to inform him and explain the correct telling of the event. Kiba would huff and Hinata would giggle at their antics. By the time Kiba finished, Hana's boyfriend arrived, a hefty young Chunin with brown hair and blue eyes, along with the food on the table. It took a tug from Guruko to remember the food he brought as well, the dog giving him a look of bemusement. Naruto stuck his tongue out at him as he pulled out the container of rice. What's that? Kiba asked as he placed a rather large piece of meat onto his plate. Kiba, I want you to eat your vegetables and bread too, Hana called out threatening. Yes, Mom, Kiba replied sarcastically before turning back to Naruto. Just some rice I cooked to bring over, Naruto said as he placed it on the table and opened the lid. The special herb rice filled the room with a delicious aroma as the grin on Kiba's face widened, if that were possible. Dude, you know how to cook? Kiba asked in astonishment. Under the table, Hana kicked him hard, causing Kiba to gasp in pain. Naruto gave a dry laugh. Since I was 5, Naruto answered with a rueful grin of his own. Kiba's head sunk guiltily, having forgotten Naruto was an orphan for a moment. So who taught you how to cook? Kiba asked, this time calmer and with curiosity. The old man gave me some tips, but for the most part one just burnt myself, or the food till I learned. Naruto answered as he put some food on his plate. Naruto looked up from his plate when all he heard was silence to find that everyone at the table was staring at him. What? Naruto asked, wondering if he messed something up. Wasn't there anyone at the orphanage to help you? Shino asked in his quiet but steel-like voice. Haven't been in an orphanage since I was 3, Naruto said with a shrug. Went to a couple foster homes, but always got taken out of them after a few months, and then when I was 4 I was put in an apartment on my own and Chunin checking up on me every few hours till I was 6. Naruto said before taking a bite of his food. Naruto looked down as he heard Guruko growling angrily beneath him. The blonde shook his head as he bent down to pat the dog softly. When he looked back up, it was to find that they were still staring at him. What? Naruto asked again, this time sure that he'd said something wrong. Hinata took in a quick breath as tears pricked at her eyes. Man, that's really fucked up, Kiba said quietly. Shino nodded his head in agreement. I was under the impression that Konoha orphans were better taken care than that, Shino said, a hint of anger in his voice. Naruto shrugged, not at all willing to admit that they probably were better taken care of, that it was just that he was someone that no one wanted, that the foster homes he lived in were run by adults that hated him and wanted him to die. He'd actually lightened up the circumstances quite a bit for their sake, and hadn't expected such a reaction with the cleaned-up version. He never mentioned that he'd been forcibly taken away from those homes due to abuse, or that he'd once been locked up in a room for 2 months in one home with a single meal a day brought up to him. He didn't mention that the Hokage executed those found guilty of the said abuse, or that the Hokage put him up in an apartment as a last resort, and a way to get Naruto away from any who would harm him. Guruko muttered darkly under his breath at the subdued table. Maybe he should pretend he had a stomachache? Surely this was one of the situations Naruto wanted to get away from. So Naruto, how's your team doing? Hana asked, leaning her elbows on the table and smiling at the blonde. Guruko sighed in relief. Well, Sakura is working on developing her taijutsu and weapons aim. Her birthday's in a week and a half and she'll be 14, all around she's doing well. Kaka-sensei's working on her genjutsu with her as well. Sasuke's learning how to better control his Sharingan with Kaka-sensei, and he's teaching him some advanced lightning techniques. Sasuke just got out of the hospital 2 weeks ago from our mission to the Land of Snow, so at the moment he's doing some lighter things since Kaka-sensei's not here right now. Kaka-sensei's been doing a lot of high-rank missions lately to make up for the lost ANBU from the Sound/Sand invasion, so I haven't really seen him that much lately. Naruto explained. Guruko nodded his head in agreement. He could definitely attest to that. So what's Kakashi teaching you? Kiba asked with a mouth full of pork. Guruko's ears perked up. He too was fairly curious. Naruto chewed slowly. To Guruko it seemed deliberately slow. Actually, Ero-sennin's been taking over teaching me, Naruto said slowly. He's been having me practice my summoning and producing the Rasengan faster. What about you guys? Naruto asked. Guruko's ears went flat against his head at the explanation. Jiraiya left nearly 4 weeks ago for one of his information-gathering trips and wouldn't be back for another week. Naruto just lied again. Surely Kakashi had been helping Naruto with something. Guruko pulled at Naruto's sleeve and growled a little, letting the blonde know he knew he just lied. Naruto stroked the dog's head, refusing to make eye contact with him and gently tugging his slightly wet sleeve from Guruko's mouth. With that topic changer, Kiba went into an animated speech about teammates' intense training regimen and his own personal newly learned clan jutsu. Naruto smiled and listened intently the whole time. After which it was time to go home. Hana thanked him for the delicious rice and even asked him for the recipe which Naruto wrote down for her while blushing. Team 7 hated his cooking after all. As Naruto was donged as Guruko heard Kiba and Shino talking on the couch in the living room. Was it just me, or did Naruto remind you of someone all during dinner? Kiba asked as he stretched his hands over his head and cracked his neck. Yes, he showed a great many characteristics leaning toward a certain teammate. Shino agreed. Kiba snorted. No way, he wasn't acting like you at all, Kiba said. Shino nodded his head in agreement. That is true considering I was referring to Hinata-san and not myself. Shino said patiently, far used to Kiba's sometimes slow uptake on things. It took Kiba a few seconds to comprehend what Shino said before he burst out laughing. It's so true. Kiba crowed out, holding his ribs. Did you see how hard he was blushing all through dinner? And how he kept his head down almost the entire time? Ha 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 ha, I never thought I'd ever say those two were similar at all. They're like night and day for God's sake. Kiba said, howling out in laughter. Kiba stopped laughing abruptly and sat up straight, a mischievous smirk gaining ground across his lips. I'll be right back, don't let Naruto go anywhere yet, Kiba told Shino as he ran off to his room. Not long passed before he came clambering downstairs with a camera in hand. Hinata, can you come here for a minute? Kiba shouted out. The petite girl peeked her head from around the corner of the kitchen in confusion before walking into the living room. Guruko cocked an eyebrow at them, wondering what Kiba planned to do. Hey, Hinata, take your jacket off for a moment, okay? Kiba asked hurriedly. WH what? Hinata eeped, the shy girl turning bright red. I want to take a picture of you and Naruto standing beside each other so I got proof to show the others, Kiba half-explained excitedly. WH what? Hinata eeped again, going a shade redder than before, nearly fainting on the spot. Shino sighed tiredly beside Kiba. Kiba noticed that Naruto has been acting out of character all through dinner in a fashion that reminds us of you. He wants to take a picture of you and Naruto to better compare, and at the moment Naruto is not wearing his jacket. Shino said slowly and carefully, understanding Hinata's reaction and attempting to help the poor girl out. Oh, if Naruto-kun's alright with it. Hinata said, fighting down her blush without success. Perfect, Kiba shouted triumphantly. Naruto, can you come here for a moment? Guruko watched, attempting to suppress a snicker as Naruto finished up writing the recipe and walked into the living room, his bangs falling into his face again, forcing him to shove them behind his ear. Yeah? Naruto asked as he came to stand in the middle of the living room and Hinata pulled off her jacket. Kiba pointed towards a blushing Hinata. Go stand by Hinata so I can take your guy's picture. Kiba commanded. Naruto stared at him in bewilderment and asked, WHWH what? To this Kiba burst out laughing hysterically, holding his stomach as if it would bust. They even had ha 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 the same reaction. Kiba shouted through gasps of breath. Shino adjusted his glasses before speaking. It is a natural reaction for anybody with the way that you throw things out there. Bah, whatever, Naruto, just go and stand by Hinata real quick, Kiba said again. Naruto, extremely confused as to what was going on, silently complied. Naruto stood beside a blushing Hinata, who he noticed with extreme irritation was the same height as himself, but nonetheless smiled at her. She smiled back and they turned to the camera. She with her arms in front of her, folded politely like an aristocrat, while he had his arms behind him, his body bent forward somewhat like a nervous child. Both with a small smile on their faces and light blushes on their cheeks. Both, purely coincidental, with long black-sleeved shirts and headbands around their necks. Milky moon eyes to clear blue sky orbs and midnight black sky hair to bright yellow sun-kissed locks. Kiba grinned like an idiot as a flash filled the room. I am so showing this to everyone, Kiba shouted maniacally. Hinata blushed while Naruto tilted his head in clear confusion. He turned to Hinata questioningly. I don't get it, Naruto said bluntly. Hinata sighed and shrugged, truthfully not understanding the whole thing herself. There was another flash of the camera and both blinked rapidly to recover from it, unprepared this time. That one was just for the looks on your faces, Kiba said with a snicker. From his position on the floor, Guruko let out a barking whine that sounded suspiciously like giggling. On their way home, Guruko reminded Naruto that he owed the dog an explanation by tugging on his shirt again. When Naruto continued to ignore him, Guruko increasingly became rougher with his tugs till a tiny rip formed on the sleeve of one of Naruto's shirts. Guruko, Naruto said irritably, don't do that, I already don't have a lot of clothes, I don't need you tearing the ones I do have apart. Guruko growled at him a little, not submitting this time. Naruto sighed tiredly. Look, Kaka-sensei's just been too busy lately, okay? He hasn't had time to train me or help me. And Jiraiya did leave me with instructions to practice those things before he left last month, Naruto said softly. I've got Erosen and so of course Kaka-sensei's gonna choose to help Sasuke and Sakura instead of me. Besides, I take up a lot more time than the others cause they're a lot smarter than me. They get stuff faster so it's easy for Kaka-sensei to teach them something quick and then go on another mission. I understand he doesn't have time to show me something. I know he gets frustrated when he's explaining stuff to me. Not as if it's the first time I've been told I'm too stupid to teach. Naruto stopped in his tracks as Guruko stared up at him in shock. I've had plenty of teachers tell me that when I asked for help he never said that exactly, but I'm not so stupid that I can't take a hint. I understand that, I don't mind, it's no big deal. Nevertheless, Naruto hugged Guruko tightly against him the whole way home. The dog would swear later that he could feel the crack in Naruto's heart the entire time growing a little bigger. Kakashi and Naruto. There was a month left before the Chunin exams begun and Naruto wanted to ask Kakashi a favor. There was something he desperately wanted to start learning, and he needed the Jounin help. Naruto waited till Sasuke and Sakura were out of earshot before he approached the Jounin, excited that he would finally be able to start learning that taijutsu style. Kaka-sensei? Naruto asked hesitantly as the silver-haired man started walking away. HM? Kakashi asked as he peered down at his smallest student. There's something that I've been really wanting to learn for a while now, but it's something I need a lot of help with. It's a taijutsu style. I've got the instructions and everything. Do you think Kakashi raised his hand up to silence the blonde? Before you even think about another style, I want you to go to Iruka and get him to reteach you the basic academy style. I'm sorry to say this, but your form is sloppy, Naruto. Naruto flinched but nodded. Then can't you show me the forms and I'll practice them? Naruto asked. Kakashi considered it before shaking his head. I haven't even seen the academy version for years. I think Iruka would really be a better teacher for this. Naruto reluctantly nodded before he left to ask Iruka for help. Iruka happily agreed to help him with his form, and so Naruto spent every single morning from 6 to 9 and after the academy let out from 4 to 5 with Iruka, painstakingly practicing the form over and over, and then sparring with the Chunin for 2 full weeks. Iruka was angry to find out that it was Mizuki's fault for teaching Naruto the wrong forms, the same man who later tried to kill Naruto and himself the night of graduation, and exceedingly proud that when shown the right forms Naruto easily picked them up. Iruka commented that, you would have gone so far in the academy if not for the teachers and their hatred. Naruto proceeded to blush as Iruka tousled his hair and dragged him to the ramen stand for dinner. When Naruto attempted to show Kakashi his improvement, the man simply waved him off, thinking that Naruto could never have improved so much in just 2 weeks, and that it was the boy's usual boastful nature. Naruto didn't go back to ask Iruka for help again, fearing that if he asked too much of the Chunin the man would become annoyed with him and wouldn't want to spend time with him anymore. An irrational fear seeing that the man saw him as a little brother, but years of hatred from everyone around him caused Naruto to be quite negative in the expectations of others. So Naruto practiced his forms for hours on his own whenever he had free time. A week later, after their team did a series of easy but tedious missions, Naruto went to look for their sensei as they started individual training. He spotted Kakashi speaking with Sakura several dozen yards away. His hearing being far better than a normal human, heard the conversation long before he got there. "Do you think you could teach me some of your taijutsu, sensei? I know it will take a while to learn, but I'd like to start." "Alright. Why don't we start tomorrow morning bright and early? I warn you though, it will require a lot of work. You're going to have to increase your chakra reserves a great deal, so I want you to work on the water walking exercise I taught you a few days ago for long periods of time. I think you'll do well with this taijutsu though, and I think I'll start you on a few more advanced genjutsu illusions as well. Practicing with them will increase your reserves almost as fast as the water walking technique." Naruto stopped in his tracks, deeply hurt, and turned around to head back to his personal spot. Naruto spent the late afternoon running up trees, trying to improve his chakra control on his own and ignore the ache that once more attacked him. Kakashi automatically assumed Sakura ready just because the girl asked. Naruto knew that Kakashi already taught Sasuke and Sakura the water walking technique and asked shortly after they'd learned it if he would teach him. Kakashi merely said that he thought Naruto would do better by sticking to the tree climbing exercise a bit longer. Nearly a month ago, Naruto could stay attached upside down to a branch for an entire day now without missing a beat. If Kakashi didn't want to teach him anything, all he had to do was say so. It would hurt less instead of simply pushing him to the side all the time. He got it. He really did. He understood Kakashi didn't like him, but each time the man ruffled his hair or talked the team about teamwork and how they should rely and care about one another, it hurt deeply. You don't say one thing and do another. Naruto's admiration for his sensei died a little that day. It would be the last time till after the prelims that Naruto would ask the man to help with anything. From the very beginning, only the weak speak loudly. Now let's forget the dunce and start on my signal. You talk a big game, but you're still only Naruto. You're a one-trick pony who hasn't got what it takes to win. Kakashi spoke harsher to him than the others. After his speech on friendship, he was left tied to the post. Every single time he would ask for help. "I'm a little busy right now, Naruto. Why don't you go ask Sakura to explain it to you?" Anytime he needed help. "Kaka-sensei, could you please help me with Naruto? I need to get home. Ask me tomorrow." The Jounin disappeared. "With setting up a bank account because they won't let me in the doors." Kakashi always spoke with praise to Sasuke and Sakura, but him. "Kaka-sensei, could you teach me that genjutsu release you taught Sakura?" "Naruto, your weapon's aim needs a great deal of improvement. I want you to practice that first. I'll come check up on you, and when I think you've improved enough I'll teach it to you, though your chakra control may not be good enough." That was nearly 8 months ago, and Naruto was still waiting for the Jounin approval. Naruto never asked if he'd improved though, cause he wasn't sure which hurt worse. Kakashi purposefully ignoring him, or simply forgetting about him. He figured ignorance was bliss. If he pretended that Kakashi would eventually come and help, it made the hurt a little less painful. The continuous tiny jabs. "Kaka-sensei, I got you a plant for your birthday. I hope you like it. It's an aloe plant so you can use it for wounds." "Thank you, Naruto, although I'd never imagined you'd like plants." "Why not?" "Well, plants require patience. Not exactly one of your best qualities." Yet Kakashi failed to mention even once any of these best qualities. The single moment he could remember feeling an endless well of happiness involving his teacher was when Kakashi came to his window with a pile of vegetables, telling him that he should maintain a better diet than ramen. The fact that he cared enough to do that for him made Naruto want to burst with joy. It still didn't cover up the hurt of his sensei always calling him stupid though. "Huh, Naruto, is that a book?" "Him. What about basics of making medicine? You want me to help you get something simpler? It might be easier for you to understand." Naruto decided that day that he wouldn't ever mention that he'd already read it 3 times, that he'd just been reviewing it, and read more advanced medicine books all the time. He loved working with plants and creating medicine from them. He considered himself very good at it, and feared what the Jounin would say or think if he ever found out. The sting from that comment itself still caused him to triple-check all ingredients before he would make any medicine with them. Even when both Sasuke and Naruto made it to the finals of the Chunin exam. "I found someone who will look after your training." "Why?" "I want you, Kaka-sensei. I've got some business to take care of, so I don't have the time to look after you." "I know you're planning to train Sasuke. Now don't say that because I've found a teacher for you who's much more reliable than me." "Well, Naruto, of the 3 in Team 7 you're the one with the worst basic skills. Have him teach it to you thoroughly this time." Kakashi managed to not only push him off on another teacher but insult him by saying that the only reason he ever did anything right was due to his stamina, that training him meant nothing more to him than a babysitting job. During the finals of the Chunin exam, Kakashi refused to listen to him when he warned against Gaara, throwing his words away as if they meant nothing, like he was just a burden. "Master, please stop this match right away. Gaara, he lives to kill others. If they keep going then Sasuke'll die. You'll be quiet and watch him, you'll be surprised." And then sent him, Sakura and Shikamaru after Sasuke when Kakashi realized his mistake. He would never apologize to Naruto for that, never thank Naruto for saving them from Gaara. Even after all that he'd accomplished, even though he'd accomplished just as much as Sasuke, even though Kakashi taught Sasuke just as deadly a technique, even though Sasuke fought him just as hard, Kakashi underestimated his hearing ability. "Were you the one that taught Naruto that technique?" I feel that Naruto is still too young to be able to control that level of a technique. In the worst case scenario, it could have killed Sasuke even if it was for his own protection. Teaching Naruto that technique was still, that Naruto thought, hurt worse than anything. His sensei considered him to be too stupid to handle it, too immature, too beneath Sasuke. Sasuke, the perfect student, and him the imbecile and worthless student not good enough to breathe their air. Kakashi, Naruto knew, would always be considered one of his special people, but he'd always known that he wasn't considered one of his teacher's special people. He just always tried to ignore the fact and keep on smiling. It was okay, he told himself, because he never considered himself to be good enough for such a thing either. Sasuke and Naruto. Sasuke Uchiha was in a foul mood. All day it was one bad thing after another. First the water pipes burst, leaving his shower to suddenly turn cold. Then he'd managed to trip on his way to school and hit his head hard. This left him with a rather horrible headache all day long. Unfortunately, that only started it all. All day, every single minute of it, those screaming girls shrieked in his ear, causing the headache to worsen and grate on his nerves. Next, while enduring the headache and girls, Kurama-sensei thought it would be wonderful to hold a test. Normally he wouldn't mind, he knew all the material, but the estimations and formations it quizzed on seemed 10 times harder to answer today. And then after all that he'd been forced to endure, an entire hour after school let out for the day of Kurama-sensei telling him how proud she was of his remarkable work, and how she was saddened that she would no longer be his teacher in a few short weeks. The fun didn't quite stop there though. Oh no, his normal training area was flooded with Chunin and his pier occupied by a couple of fishermen. His pier where for the past 2 years he'd waited exactly 1 hour after school let out every day for the brief moment of peace and understanding that came when he saw Naruto. They rarely talked at the academy and never once allowed anyone to think they were friends, but Sasuke accepted Naruto as a fellow orphan who could relate to him. So when they saw each other each day, it was a reassurance for them both. Something that simply said, "You're not alone?" Sasuke treasured that brief moment each day, and the fact that he'd been denied it royally pissed him off. He missed Naruto anyway thanks to Kurama-sensei, but his 10-year-old mind stubbornly ignored this fact as he glared down on the fisherman. So when in the middle of the night a knocking from his front door woke him up, Sasuke Uchiha was in a foul mood. Sasuke swung his body out of bed and marched to the front door in his pajamas. The sound of thunder and patter of heavy rain met his ears and did nothing to lighten his mood. If anything, it made it worse. Rain always reminded him of the night after the massacre when he'd raced to his family's home. Sasuke yanked the door open and glared at whoever the bastard was that woke him up at such a god-forsaken hour. Naruto Uzumaki stood outside his door. Drenched. Shivering. Alone. "What do you want, you idiot?" Sasuke snarled out. If Sasuke hadn't been in a foul mood, he most likely would have noticed the hurt look that entered the smaller boy's eyes. If he hadn't been in a foul mood, he might have noticed the red tinge across whiskered cheeks that showed signs of fever. If he hadn't been in a foul mood, there was the possibility that the Uchiha could have noticed the bruises around the blonde's wrists and along his arms. Unfortunately, Sasuke never saw any of this. He only saw the wide grin on Naruto's face that made his irritation mount. Sasuke watched the blonde wrap his arms around himself to keep warm and the smile drop a little bit. "Sasuke, would it be okay if?" Naruto stuttered loudly, the sound echoing into Sasuke's bare home. "Will you just spit it out already?" Sasuke snarled. Naruto flinched, but it went unnoticed by the Uchiha. "Could I please stay the night here? Just for tonight," Naruto pleaded. Sasuke stared at him disbelievingly for several moments. The rain continued to fall, droplets sliding down chilled tan skin and soaked material. Naruto shifted from foot to foot nervously, eyes trained on the ground. "Why in the world would I let you spend the night at my house?" Sasuke finally asked. Naruto looked up, startled by the harshness there. Sasuke continued, unaware of what he was actually doing. "We've only ever talked like what? 3 times maybe? The only thing I really know about you is that you're an orphan and an idiot. You're also a prankster. How do I know you won't do something to my home while I sleep?" Sasuke asked. Naruto took a step back, the smile bigger than before. "Well, it's just I thought that we were friends. It's just for tonight. I'll be gone before you even wake up," Naruto said cheerily, his voice louder than need be. "Friends?" Sasuke whispered, his brother's voice seeping into his mind. "To obtain eyes like mine, you must kill your closest friend." "Whoever said," Sasuke asked quietly, "that we were friends?" Naruto took another step back, out of the shelter of the doorway and fully into the rain. He stood, smile never wavering and eyes closed, under the onslaught of the rain and Sasuke's words. "You and me? We're not friends and we will never be friends. You're nothing but a complete idiot who can't do anything right. Go home." Naruto's head bowed forward, ragged as strands of hair in front of his eyes. "Sorry," Naruto told Sasuke cheerily, "I misunderstood. I do that a lot." Naruto's voice wavered for a bit but steadied. "Sorry. Good night, Sasuke." And with that, Naruto turned and ran. Sasuke angrily slammed the door shut and went back to bed. If Sasuke hadn't been in a foul mood, he might have noticed the stream of blood that seeped from the corner of Naruto's mouth. If he hadn't been in a foul mood, he would have noticed a drop in temperatures that signaled the start of something worse than rain. Unfortunately, like most 10-year-olds, the world revolves around them and they hardly have time to notice when someone else is having a bad day. They don't consider the consequences either. The long time hurt a memory can carry even when it's those very memories that haunt their own mind. The 10-year-old did notice though, when Naruto stopped walking by the pier. Naruto always had known that Sasuke was alone, and used to be glad that he'd found someone like himself. He was happy, he wanted to get to know Sasuke right away, but it wasn't so simple. Sasuke was the most popular student in the school, he could do anything and everyone always loved him. Naruto knew that they were too different, that he wasn't good enough to talk to him. He tried a few times, even managed to talk to Sasuke for a while. It was a lot of fun. No one had been as nice to him as Sasuke had, and so he let himself think that they were friends. He was brought back to reality that night though. His home was burned a few days beforehand and he was desperate after he'd accidentally run into a couple of drunks. He ran as far and as fast as possible after escaping them, and with luck came across Sasuke's home. After Sasuke turned him down, the temperature dropped and water froze to snow. He spent that night in one of the plastic tubes of the park near the academy, and almost died. Not long after that came the incident, and slowly the opinion of himself got worse and worse till he felt worthless. He knew he could never be Sasuke's friend, so settled for pretending he was good enough to be Sasuke's rival. Even though he had no friends, he felt that arguing with Sasuke kept him somewhat sane. He had nothing else. No one cared about him, no one wanted him, everyone hated him, and he didn't want to think about that. He had no purpose for being alive except in being able to argue with Sasuke, to be berated by Sakura. They were the only ones in the world who so much as knew that he existed, even if it was just because he bothered them. It hurt so much to know he would never be anything else to them, to anyone for that matter, but desperately held on to it. Every time he left the academy he felt numb, a dark nothingness that consumed his body so that even the citizens of Konoha couldn't touch him. Then by some strange miracle he was placed on Sasuke and Sakura's team. Sasuke always insulted him, always hated him, always degraded him. Naruto always argued back, disagreed vehemently, but in the end silently agreed with everything Sasuke had to say about him. Sasuke was his idol, the person he looked up to more so than anyone else in the world. Naruto was a despised monster that everyone hated, Sasuke the perfect individual that everyone loved. So Naruto tried desperately to be like him, to try to be what everyone liked, and hated himself more each time he failed and lost to Sasuke, cause it just proved how worthless he was. When Sasuke told him that he, Naruto the Worthless, was one of the ones he wanted to fight in the preliminaries and finals, Naruto was never happier when he heard that. Sasuke finally acknowledged him, acknowledged that he was good, he was finally given something to be proud of by his team, but then they fought on the roof. It was as if his whole world fell apart. You dimwit idiot, what are you so full of yourself for, eh? What are you losing your cool for? That's so unlike you. What? Are you afraid now that you've challenged me to a fight, huh, Sasuke? Shut up and fight. Before we start you better put on this leaf headband. I don't need something like that. Just do it. You won't even lay a finger on me, let alone my forehead. That's not the point. I'm saying this is a symbol that we fight as equal leaf ninja. That's why I say you're full of yourself. You think you're on par with me? Of course I do. In fact, I've never thought of myself as inferior to you, not even once. It was as if everything up until then was worthless. Everything Naruto had worked for Kakashi's respect, for Sasuke's acknowledgement, it was gone. He was once more nothing. He'd thought when they fought Gaara that Sasuke had included him when he'd spoken about precious comrades, but Sasuke still considered him as beneath him. Could someone you considered to be worthless be precious to you at the same time? Naruto didn't think so. Every grain of self-worth he'd built up since the day they'd become genin turned to dust as if it were never there. He'd worked so hard, nearly died to bring back Tsunade to heal Kakashi and Sasuke after Itachi sent them both into a coma. Neither of them thanked him. Both of them squeezed their fists around his heart until its beats slowed to a barely alive rate, cracking it. Sakura and Naruto. And this is the short dinner sect. By Kishi Hisake. They'd been assigned a C-rank mission in delivering medical supplies to one of the Fire Nation's most advanced hospitals near its capital. They'd been traveling for 2 days now, and the sun just set itself below the horizon, causing Team 7 to set up camp for the night. A cycle for chores became designated to each team member, as this was to be a week-long mission. Tonight Sakura handled the tents, Sasuke got the firewood, and Naruto cooked the dinner. Sakura, while setting up the boys' tent, watched Naruto bustle around the slowly growing fire. Naruto hummed to himself a tune that Sakura would secretly admit to herself to be calming and beautiful. Never in a million years would Sakura ever say that the blonde member of their team possessed an extremely nice voice when he wasn't yelling about something or other. The blonde grinned as he took a whiff of the stew before nodding to himself and mumbling something under his breath as he added a herb she didn't recognize. Then he rushed off to chop up some rabbit meat he'd caught not even an hour ago into small pieces to add to his concoction. All through this he kept glancing over to her while she worked on the tents, saying things like, "Nah, Sakura-chan. You're going to love this. Don't worry, it isn't ramen. Sakura smiled to herself, who knew that Naruto would be the one on the team to enjoy cooking. Little did they know that dinner would not be the most appetizing thing to look at. Naruto, what is this? Kakashi, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke were seated together beside a large fire. Naruto turned his gaze up to the rest of the team, the strange goop that he called stew bulging his cheeks out unattractively. He quickly swallowed his mouthful of goop and grinned at the rest of them, who were staring down at the stew like it was an alien that had just come out of their mother's womb instead of their little brother. What cha mean? This is what I have at home sometimes. It's easy to make and fills you up. Sasuke looked down at his bowl again, and then sat down in front of him, scooting it away from him with his foot. I'm not eating this. Kakashi set his down as well, not exactly trusting the way his bowl of goop was bubbling. No offense, Naruto. Sakura stared at hers as well, then sighed. I can't eat something like this. It's just not very well appetizing, she said, putting hers on the ground next to the others. For a second, he stared at them, a flash of something unfamiliar in his eyes, then he grinned, squinting his eyes like he normally did. Oh, come on, guys. It's really good. It isn't bad. I promise, he said, digging into his bowl again. Sakura, her hunger eating away at her mood, glared at him. Naruto, I told you I wasn't going to eat it. It just doesn't look good. She scoffed. I can't definitely say that you are able to keep all of your promises. Naruto paused in his eating for a moment, turning to look at her. Well, I'm promising you now that it's not that bad. He grinned again. So just try it. If you honestly don't like it, then you can throw it away or better yet give it to me, I'll eat it. Sakura gave him an unsure look. Then her stomach gave a loud growl, and she sighed. Picking up her bowl, she gulped down her fear and brought a spoonful of the strange goop up. She vaguely registered that Kakashi and Sasuke were leaning in, watching her intently. Slowly, she opened up her mouth and took a bite. She chewed thoughtfully for a moment, allowing the taste to slide across her tongue. It wasn't really that bad, she had to admit that even though it looked like it could eat her alive, it didn't have too bad of a taste. Swallowing her bite, she dipped her spoon back in and took another bite. Kakashi and Sasuke shared a glance, then began to carefully take small bites themselves. Naruto watched them eat while serving himself a second bowl, making sure to keep his hair in front of his eyes. None of the others realized that he was waiting for some sort of a, hey, it isn't half bad, or sorry that I said all that stuff. And because of that, he quietly ate the rest of his food, not bothering to lift his eyes to meet anyone else's. No one on Team 7 would say anything to him for the rest of the night, and Naruto would not approach anyone. The blonde would quietly slip into his sleeping bag and keep his back to the rest of them for the entirety of the night. Sakura, I have to know, what do you think of Naruto? If he had his way, I'd never find love or happiness. He ruins everything. He enjoys tormenting me. Naruto doesn't understand me at all. I can't stand to have him anywhere near me. He'd always knew Sakura disliked him, but it wasn't until the day they became genin that he knew she hated him. It was the reason he didn't bother to try and get the others to work with him during the bell test. After he'd heard the rules, he thought that he'd be sent back to the academy, and that he deserved it. The only thought that crossed his mind during the test was that he was happy that Sasuke and Sakura at least would be able to graduate as genin. He knew that they would be happier without him anyways. At the time, he'd still been deeply confused by the incident with Mizuki and Irika, still wondering if it wouldn't just be better if he slit his own throat. It wasn't until he started to spend a good deal of time with Irika that he'd felt any type of worth about himself. He owed Irika everything and could give the man nothing, something he felt horrible about. Sakura, during his time in the academy and just when he'd meet Irika, she was the only other person besides Sasuke who responded to his pestering. Everyone else in the academy ignored him as if he weren't even there. It was as if there was a wall between him and the rest of the world, but there was a tiny crack where Sasuke and Sakura could hear him. Most of the time he felt horrible for bothering them, but at the same time he felt worse when they turned away, as if he'd slip under a current just laying beneath his feet, dying to grab a hold of him. He did like Sakura a lot, but he knew she'd never like him back. He was content with just being near her because he enjoyed listening to her talk about anything and everything. Slowly it got to where she actually seemed to like talking to him, something new he'd never had with anyone his own age. He could sit and talk to her for hours, but in the end she would get tired of it and insult him before leaving. He could handle that, as long as she eventually came back. It wasn't until he was in the hospital room though that everything came into perspective for him. He'd worked so hard to get Tsunade to come to Konoha first and foremost to heal his injured teammates. He'd not wanted anything but a small thank you from just one of them. Something to show that they recognized his hard work and cared that he'd gone to such lengths for them. Sakura didn't say a word, just as Kakashi and Sasuke said nothing. It hurt a lot, but it wasn't like he couldn't deal with it. What crushed him was the things they said to him after he'd worked so hard to help them, telling him how worthless he was. It was something that Sakura did that caused Naruto to realize something though. She ignored him and rushed to Sasuke's side the moment Tsunade healed him. She enraptured Sasuke in a hug of care and joy. Sakura, not in a million years' time, would ever do the same for him. Naruto knew this fact just the same as he knew the back of his hand. She would never spend every day in a hospital room waiting for him to get better. He doubted she'd even visit. She would never hug him, or even touch him no matter how much pain he was in. She would never jump in front of an enemy attack for him as she'd done for Sasuke against Gaara. She would never so much as peel an apple for him as she'd done for Sasuke. He'd already known this deep down, but it was the fact that he knew what was coming that nearly broke him. He knew the moment he saw her enrapture Sasuke. They were moving on. They were growing closer together while he was being forced back. Naruto doubted he'd even be able to say goodbye when it happened. They would simply be there one day and gone the next. They would move on to better things, they would be promoted faster, be together longer, possibly forever. He would be left to fall under the current by himself, his anchors would be gone, and he would either have to find a way to shore or drown. All that was left was to figure out which one would hurt less. Sakura never said a word to him, but it echoed volumes. That's what hurt the most about what Kakashi and Sasuke said not 2 days later. It was as if they'd heard Sakura cry that silent alarm, that it was time to let him swim or drown, and it appeared they were voting for the later. He didn't think he'd make it much longer. Even his pretend world couldn't cope with so much hatred from the people he cared about most, his pretend world where his team cared as much about him as he did them. So Naruto showed up for practice and missions as he'd always done before, smiling like an idiot, making sure not to look either of them in the eye. He'd keep his pretend world up as long as he could and then swim as long as possible in whatever ocean they threw him in. Until a dog was thrown in with him. When Guruko and Naruto made it to the training grounds early the next day, Naruto once more practiced his weapon's aim, pounding kunai after kunai into the bark with a vengeance. The sound of wood splintering resounded through the area, as each hit dug deep into every bullseye. Guruko wasn't sure why Naruto even practiced so much with his shuriken and kunai, since the blonde could give any jounin a run for their money. Of course, as the dog watched, he reasoned that it might be a stress reliever for the boy, with how he was making chunks fly from the tree. As before, all evidence of the said practice session involving Naruto was gone by the time his teammates showed up at the designated hour. The events that took place were eerily similar to Naruto's prediction on how Sasuke and Sakura would react to his absence. Naruto bore through Sakura's yelling and Sasuke's contempt with a strained smile that caused Guruko to whine miserably beside the blonde. Guruko audibly moaned when either of his teammates asked why the blonde was absent. If he'd taken up that bet, he'd have lost an awful lot of money. Naruto, do you hear Guruko? He sounds sick. What did you do? Sakura asked as she bent down to pet the dog's head. He got stuck on a team with you too, Guruko thought bitterly. Not even a week ago would Guruko have said that he very much liked Sasuke and Sakura. They were good people after all, but almost a week of seeing through Naruto's perspective left the dog tempting to bite the hand that petted his head so soothingly. The absolute ignorance of Sasuke and Sakura to Naruto's life was mind-blowing. Did they know Naruto worked 2 jobs? Did they know Naruto had financial problems? Did they know about the horrible treatment their teammate faced every day, or that he got sick every week? Guruko hoped to God that they didn't know, because if they did and they just let it continue to happen without offering any help, Guruko swore he'd rip off one of their limbs. If they asked why he was absent, would Naruto have even told them that it was because a man attacked him and hurt him? Even now Guruko wasn't sure if the blonde needed medical treatment. Naruto's sheer ability to deceive the people around him caused the dog to shudder. If the Hokage ever found out about the blonde's skills, Naruto would probably be placed on a team for undercover work immediately. Not many shinobi showed such blatant skill of one of the most important arts of being a ninja. While within the apartment this morning the blonde was a mess, the boy looked as if he'd be sick any moment now, and he wore a grim expression while pouring breakfast for Guruko. Then, as if he'd suddenly been replaced by someone else, he put on his clothes and walked out the door with Guruko with the actions of someone going to a celebration. A large grin sat on his lips, there was a bounce in his walk, and he talked animatedly to Guruko the whole way to the training area. He'd slipped on an emotional mask as easily as shinobi slipped a kunai from their pouch. It was very difficult for Guruko, who knew the smiles and grins of the preteen before him were fake, to tell that they were strained at all. For the most part they seemed natural. The only thing that gave Naruto away at all was that the crinkle in his eyes was a little too tight, as if the mere act of smiling and laughing was painful. Naruto! I asked you what you did to Guruko. Sakura repeated herself. Naruto shrugged. He looks fine to me, Naruto muttered. What was that? Sakura asked in a too-sweat voice. I said I don't know. I thought I did everything right, Naruto rephrased. Dobe, do you need someone to hold your hand for everything? Sasuke growled. I didn't do anything wrong. Naruto snapped back. Then why is Kakashi's dog acting like he's gonna die? Sasuke snarled. Guruko sighed in exasperation before getting up and padding over to Naruto and tugging on the pant of his leg with his teeth. Naruto paused in his comeback and bent down, to which Guruko licked his face happily. Really, Guruko was finding it increasingly difficult to get his point across without just saying it. Naruto smirked. Sasuke frowned and turned away. Sakura just stared, slightly confused at the sudden change in the dog's attitude. I knew you were just being a drama queen, Naruto whispered as he scratched behind the dog's ear. Guruko huffed and went back to his laying down position beside Pakken, who was wearily watching him, wondering not for the first time why Guruko was acting so strange. When Naruto went to practice the leaf exercise once more, Pakken pulled Guruko to the side as Sakura began to demonstrate to Sasuke how to dismantle a genjutsu without the aid of the Sharingan. Why are you still not talking, and why are you acting like a whining child? Pakken snapped at him. Guruko growled angrily at the smaller dog. Does Kakashi know about Naruto's home life? Guruko asked, barely holding in his rage. What are you talking about? Is something wrong? Pakken asked, this time his voice lowered and concerned. Hell yes, something's wrong. Everything's wrong. He's working 2 jobs, struggling to make ends meet, and the other day a man hurt him just outside his home. Naruto needs to get out of there immediately. Guruko snarled as he began to limp back and forth in his aggravation. Hurt him? Pakken asked, startled. It's healed now thanks to the kid's healing abilities, but it was bad, Pakken, real bad. And from what I saw, it wasn't the first time the man got a hold of him. With how Naruto acted afterwards, I think that man's been hurting him for a long time. Guruko said darkly. Pakken's eyes wandered over to the blonde in question, who sat far from everyone else near the lake, frustration clear his face as the leaf fell off again. Have you informed anyone? Pakken asked. The Hokage should know by now, Guruko said quietly. She'll be tearing heads off to find the man. Guruko watched as Naruto suddenly stood up and walked onto the lake before sitting down directly in the middle of the lake and attempting to perform the exercise while simultaneously balancing on the surface of the water. Guruko couldn't help but smirk as the leaf stayed on immediately. He'd been correct, it wasn't the difficulty of the exercise or that Naruto couldn't understand how to perform it, it was the level of chakra needed for the exercise. Naruto was a Jinchuriki with larger chakra reserves than the Hokage, so it was simply impossible to draw out such a small amount of chakra. Neither of his teammates seemed to have noticed their teammate's achievement though. Guruko sighed in annoyance. There isn't anything else we can do then, it's up to the Hokage, just keep an eye on him until she makes her move. Pakken said from beside him. Guruko nodded as he watched Naruto continue to practice, moving from using one leaf to several on different points on his body. When they got home later that day, Naruto fell tiredly onto his bed and closed his eyes, Guruko wagging his tails happily at him as he pulled at the blonde's shoes till they came off. Naruto reached down and pulled the dog up onto the bed with him, absently stroking the light brown fur as Guruko snuggled up against him. You know you're the devil, right? Naruto said tiredly. I gotta get up in a few minutes, and make dinner, and take you out, and then I gotta go to work and you're here making me all comfortable? That's just cruel, Naruto said sleepily. Guruko yipped in agreement before making himself comfortable and falling asleep. Little bastard, Naruto muttered. Naruto did get up only a few minutes later and far too soon for Guruko's liking and was on his way to his second job. It was about time, Guruko thought, that he found out what this second job was. The moment the door closed, Guruko limped to the window and gently prodded the farthest window pane to the right. The window pane swung open easily, something he'd accidentally figured out on his excavation of Naruto's home, and squeezed through until he stood on the rather large ledge that encircled the entire building. Being careful of the edge, Guruko carefully limped around the building till he came to the opening where the stairs lay. There was a 3-foot drop that while it would jar his leg wound, it wouldn't be too painful. Guruko hoped down and sniffed the air. Damn, that kid went far in such a short amount of time. He'd never have expected that Naruto could walk so fast with those short legs of his. Naruto lived in the worst section of Konohagakure, a place even the shinobi tread carefully in, filled with drunks, druggies and the like. Considering this caused Guruko to feel his heart sink deep into his chest when Naruto's scent led him deeper into the filthy neighborhood rather than away from it. It took Guruko a considerable amount of time to navigate his way to the place due to his leg, but when he finally stopped in front of the building of Naruto's second job, the dog almost blanched. Naruto works at a bar? Guruko thought in horror. Guruko cautiously made his way inside and felt his nose twitch at the intense smell of liquor. It was difficult to pick up Naruto's scent among all the other strong odors, but Guruko wasn't on Kakashi's team for nothing. The dog made his way to the back and snuck through a curtained doorway to a dimly lit kitchen area. There Naruto stood among a sea of burly men washing the dishes, his small body paling in comparison to those around him, a tall stack of dishes beside him that would probably take the blonde a while to get through. Guruko shrunk back into the shadows of a corner as a large man walked in with a big stack of dishes, chuckling as he placed them down none too gently beside the already generous pile there. Naruto sighed dejectedly as the man chuckled and disappeared the way he came. With the man continuously coming in with more dishes, it took Naruto 3 full hours to get them all cleaned and put away for the night. It was 9 o'clock, so the dinner guests would be thinning while the orders for alcoholic beverages would be increasing. Guruko watched from the corner the entire time, almost falling asleep on more than one occasion. After all, watching someone clean dishes was about as much fun as doing them. Not that he ever experienced doing dishes, but he'd heard Kakashi complain about it several times at home. Naruto! A tall man in his mid-30s walked through the curtained doorway, his scalp as bare as a baby's bottom and had small, gold-hooped earrings hanging from each lobe. He was not fat but rather broad-shouldered with tattoos covering the entirety of his left arm. In other words, he was big, scary and strong. Yeah, Satoshi? Naruto asked as he dried his pruned hands off from the soapy water. So this was Naruto's boss. You scary. Guruko couldn't help but think. Waiter called in sick last minute, time to make up for not coming in the other night. Satoshi said. His words came out in a grating, croaking whisper, as if at one point he'd had his voice box ripped out and shoved back in the wrong way. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck tiredly while nodding. All right, Naruto said as he took up a waiter's apron and tied it around his waist. The waiters got paid more than he did, so it was a punishment for Naruto to work as a waiter for the same amount he always got. Naruto touched the wraps around his face to make sure they were secure and pushed a stray strand of blonde hair back up into his bandana before walking out into the crowded and slightly smoky front room. Guruko quietly followed and hid in the shadow of the large bar counter. Guruko watched closely, weary of any sudden movements on the drunk's part. Naruto smiled at each of the customers as he wrote down their orders, and for the most part the customers behaved themselves, though a few women flirted with him. Naruto just smiled at them and dealt with it with ease. Guruko almost revealed himself though when a drunken man roughly grabbed a hold of the blonde's shoulder and demanded more beer be served to him immediately, but stopped himself as Naruto easily removed himself from the man's grip and assured him that he'd have another drink for the man in a minute. The drunk calmed down enough to nod eagerly and proclaimed to the table that more young people should be as obedient as the lad. 9 turned to 10 and that turned into 11, Naruto's quitting time, which allowed Guruko to sigh in relief. A 12-year-old shouldn't be working in a bar. Guruko was going to have many words with Kakashi for not watching his students closer. It was not to be a peaceful leave though. As Naruto finished up delivering his last order to a table in the corner, a rather intoxicated woman grabbed a hold of Naruto's wrist and pulled him to her. Naruto gently tugged his wrist out of her grip and began to walk away. The woman was persistent though. She lurched from her seat at the booth and stumbled behind him until she leaned heavily against his shoulder. Hey, now that's not wearing nice OUs, she said with a hiccup. I'm sorry but I'm off now. Please go to another waiter, Naruto said gently as he removed her from him again. I knows that, she said indignantly. I's only wanted to know if you've wanted me as much as I've wanted you. The woman slurred with a giggle. Sorry, not interested, Naruto said as he tried to leave again. The woman took a 180 in the emotional scale and started to cry, right in the middle of the bar. Wise as not? USE thinks I'm ugly's done you? The woman yelled loudly, her cries turning to wails before she lurched forward and grabbed Naruto's wrist again. I'm not ugly, you stupid jerk, the woman cried out. Naruto winced as the woman's nails dug into his arm and roughly removed his hand from her grip. I never said you were ugly, I just said I'm not interested, Naruto said as he made it to the front of the bar and began to take the waiter's apron off. Guruko moved closer, ready to attack the woman if she tried anything worse. The woman sniffled loudly, her hand half covering her mouth. So do you think I's petty? She asked quietly. You're a very beautiful woman, Naruto told her with a strained grin. The woman nodded her head and smiled happily, a hiccup escaping her lips as she looked at Naruto again. She moved forward and attempted to grab him again, but Naruto once more moved away from her and let her bump into the bar's counter. I said, Naruto gritted out, that I'm not interested. As the women began to wail again, Naruto ducked into the back room and leaned against the wall, messaging his forehead with a slightly shaking hand. God, I hate this job, Naruto muttered to himself as he tiredly straightened up. Satoshi. I'm heading home now, Naruto called, the only response being a loud grunt from the bar. Come on Guruko, let's go home. The dog gave a guilty start as he slunk out of the shadows and gave the blonde a questioning look. Naruto chuckled tiredly as he stretched. I wouldn't be a very good shinobi if I didn't notice a dog with a chakra signature following me around, Naruto said crookedly. Guruko lowered his head further and whined. Yeah, I don't care what your excuse is, you aren't doing this again, you hear? Naruto said sternly as he began to walk toward the back door. And since you decided that you could walk all the way here on your own, I'm not carrying around your heavy ass back to the apartment, Naruto said as he opened the back door wide for the dog. Guruko whined as he limped through the back door, Naruto laughing at the dog's antics. Team 7 never met on Saturday and Sundays due to their sensei almost always having a mission on the weekends and the fact that in the beginning Team 7 really couldn't stand each other enough to be around each other every day of the week. Well, it was more like Sasuke couldn't stand his teammates and Sakura couldn't stand Naruto. Thus, they'd gotten into the practice of having the weekends off, and even when they'd grown closer to each other, it became such an ingrained habit that they didn't bother breaking it. Well, Sasuke and Sakura didn't bother breaking it. Naruto just gave up trying to get either of them to hang out with him on the weekends or any other day. So when Guruko woke up at 6 in the morning, a mere 6 hours after he and Naruto went to bed, to find that the blonde was already awake, the dog rolled over and groaned. Did Naruto ever sleep more than a few hours? Guruko gingerly hopped out of bed and searched around the apartment for the blonde to find nothing. Guruko groaned in annoyance. After a few more minutes, Guruko found himself in the kitchen and nestled down with an annoyed huff, only to hear an amused snort come from above him. Startled, Guruko looked up to see Naruto upside down, legs Indian style with hands in a hand seal for focus, practicing chakra control with a leaf on his forehead. Guruko felt his eye twitch. Did the blonde ever stop working? Morning sunshine, Naruto called cheerily, but Guruko noticed dark shadows under his eyelids despite the carefree tone. Guruko growled up at the blonde. No, the dog was not an early bird to get the worm. He hated worms. Now that you're up, I was thinking we could go train, Naruto said happily. Guruko moaned and whined as if he was still a pup and rolled over with a pitiful cry. Don't be that way. Well, go to a special training ground that nobody uses anymore and you can sleep all you want, Naruto said as he gently flipped from the roof and landed in a crouch upon the floor. Naruto grabbed his weapons pouch and a basket with a book in it before setting it beside the door. Why don't I pick you up some cooked meat on the way? Naruto asked teasingly. Guruko rolled onto his stomach and wagged his tail. He was tired, but cooked meat sounding much better than worms. Naruto laughed as he gently picked the dog up and slipped him into the basket beside the book. With that, they left the apartment. Naruto hummed that same strange but beautiful tune to Guruko as they walked down the streets of Konoha, blatantly ignoring the awful insults people spat harshly at him as he passed them by. Guruko growled at them, but Naruto just stroked his fur to calm him down, reminding him that it would cause more trouble than good. Still, when a man stretched and accidentally slipped his leg out as Naruto walked by, Guruko couldn't help but snarl at the man who nearly fell out of his seat in fear. Despite his reprimanding, Naruto couldn't help the slight snicker that escaped at the man's expression. When Naruto bought the promised meat under the disguise of a henge young woman, basket to hip and smile on her pretty lips. The stand that sold the meat to Naruto, under henge of course, was run by a man missing several of his front teeth. The man smiled broadly at the young woman, Naruto, as he gave the blonde a discount. Guruko snickered the whole way to the special training ground as he munched on his meat. Their walk took them several miles past the regular training grounds to a place within the shadows of the west side of the Hokage monument. The only light came in the form of a few rays seeping out from the thick forestry above. It was a peaceful place for a nap, just as Naruto promised. Naruto set the dog down beside him on the grassy forest floor and took the book out of the basket. Guruko settled beside the blonde and peered at the book curiously. Naruto smiled down at him as he leafed through to a certain page. Before the Chunin exams, Gigi called me up to his office to give me this book. He knew I always wanted to learn my mom's taijutsu style, so he kept the instructions safe for me until he thought that I could start learning it. Naruto explained with a gentle, loving smile on his face as he remembered the man he considered a grandfather. When I was little, he would tell me all sorts of stories about her that I reminded him of her. He said she was an ANBU captain before she died and a medical kunoichi at that. Naruto frowned a little at that and looked down at the book before him blankly. I always wanted to be a medic nin like she was, but since I'm a Jinchuriki, that's impossible, Naruto said dejectedly. I've been trying really hard at making medicine though. I can't be a medic nin, but I want to learn how to be a regular medic at least. I won't be able to do the things she did, but I'll still be able to help my team. Both Sasuke and Sakura are great at genjutsu, but Sasuke's good at ninjutsu too, while Sakura's been focusing on her taijutsu since the Chunin exams. It's what really makes them useful to the team since we're an assault squad. Since I'm mainly a ninjutsu user, I've been reading a lot of medical books so that I can be the medic of my team, Naruto told Guruko. Guruko yipped happily up at him. Guruko thought the idea of the kind-hearted blonde being a medic fit the boy's personality perfectly. Maybe then I'll actually be able to do something right instead of always screwing everything up, Naruto muttered more to himself than Guruko. For her taijutsu style, she used fans like Temari, only she had two and they were small, Naruto said as he scratched Guruko's ear, his voice coming out in an excited breath. I wanted to ask Kaka-sensei to help me, but Guruko stiffened. It doesn't matter, I guess, Naruto said quietly. Guruko growled at him, demanding he be told why Kakashi wouldn't help him. Naruto sighed tiredly. He's just busy. He told me I needed to practice my basic forms first, so I did for nearly 4 months now, Naruto said softly in resignation. I don't have the fans yet though, and they're pretty expensive for any person, not just me, so and I can't get them till I get some new shinobi attire cause these are getting small on me, not to mention all my bills and other things I have to pay off, plus I'm gonna have to replace my weapons soon cause they're dull. I guess it was really a stupid thought from the beginning, huh? Naruto asked Guruko. Guruko frowned up at the blonde, angry about Kakashi's negligence and Naruto's negative attitude. It seemed on at least a few things Naruto didn't have much hope. What made it horrible to Guruko was that with each passing day it appeared that Team 7 was the root of that lost hope. It's too bad my mom's fans were destroyed with my family's home. I'll get a home of my own one day though, away from the village. I've even got one picked out, Naruto said with a contented smile on his face. It's a bit run down, but it's away from the village up against the wall in the most dense part of these forests. Gigi made sure that no one could buy it till I got enough money for it. Just a few more months I'll have enough. Just little while longer, Naruto said, stroking Guruko softly. The dog had the feeling that Naruto was talking more to himself than to him. All I got to do is make it a little while longer. Naruto closed the book and stood up. I'll just practice the academy form, and then see if Erosen won't mind helping me with it. He should be here in a couple days, but don't be such a baby. I think you misunderstood something. I did promise to teach you jutsu, but I never said I would hold your hand and walk you through it. If you can't master it on your own, that's it. Stop being so juvenile and start acting like a proper shinobi. I don't have the time. I'm not even going to sit and eat here. I'm going to scarf it down on my way to the city. If you can't think it through and figure out the knacks on your own, you'll never get better. I already told you 3 weeks ago, stop being such a baby, didn't I? You're a ninja. Guruko watched silently as Naruto's face fell completely. I'll just try to teach myself, Naruto said dejectedly. I need to stop being such a baby, Naruto whispered to himself as he sat down and opened the book again. Naruto positioned the book against a nearby tree and stood in the first form, but it was slightly off from what the book showed. Naruto tried several different times to adjust his stance, getting close but then trying to fix it and accidentally making it worse. Naruto bit his lip as he moved his foot an inch to the right and noticed the entire stance go off kilter. This went on for a few hours, the blonde's frustration mounting as he tried to figure out the motions depicted in the book, but failed miserably. Taijutsu was simply something that needed some type of instructor. Guruko watched the blonde try again and again, wincing each time the stance got worse. Naruto chewed the bottom of his lip through till a thin line of blood dripped down his chin before wiping it away with a growl of frustration. He sighed as he peered behind him at the sun and noticed that it was early afternoon. Come on, Guruko, I'll take you home and feed you. Then there's this job I need to get to, Naruto said absently as he put the book back into the basket. Guruko nearly toppled over at that. Another job? Guruko thought incredulously. Naruto put Guruko in the basket, the dog pulling at Naruto's sleeve. What? Naruto asked, not understanding what the dog wanted. Guruko gently head-butted his shoulder and whined. Naruto still didn't understand though, and just shrugged helplessly. This would be so much easier if I could just ask him what I wanted to know, but damn the brat, he'd go tight-lipped immediately. When they got home, Naruto made himself a quick cup of ramen and refilled Guruko's bowl. The job I'm going to is just a shipping business that pays a lot for men who can lift their crates and stack them onto the carriages or simply deliver heavier than normal packages around the city. Naruto explained as he got ready to leave. I should be back by 4 and then I'll take you out and feed you and go to the bar for the rest of the night, this time without a companion. Naruto said sternly, on the weekends I work at the bar from 7 to 3 in the morning, so don't bother waiting up for me. Just go to bed. Satoshi is gonna have me cleaning up the bar after everyone leaves. It makes a lot of money actually, so it's well worth it. Guruko growled his disapproval as Naruto began to water his plants. Don't be like that, Naruto said, it's not like I've got a choice. There aren't many places that will hire me, and some much worse than a bar, so it's a good deal. You shouldn't have to work so much just to get by, Guruko thought to himself. Naruto finished up and gave Guruko a pat before walking out the door. Naruto had come home drenched in sweat around 4:30, and then was out the door again by 6:30. Despite what Naruto said about not waiting up for him, Guruko slept on the kitchen floor so that when the door opened he would immediately wake up. Except the door never opened and Guruko didn't wake up till 7 the next morning. When the dog blurrily blinked several times to find shining rays of sunshine cascading through the curtains of the kitchen window, the dog felt his heart rip out of his chest. He checked Naruto's bedroom and then the bathroom. No Naruto. Guruko sniffed the air and noted that he couldn't smell Naruto's trail. Too many hours had gone by and the scent was simply too weak for him to pick up. It was something Pakken was a lot better at than him. The small dog could pick up a trail a couple days old. The dog panicked and limped his way out of the building and all the way to the bar. The Nin dog checked every room in the building from the shadows, his heart racing as each search came up empty. Guruko limped to the training grounds, Team 7's and Naruto's personal place, and howled in fear when still nothing came up. The sun was high in the sky, a sign that it was early afternoon already. Guruko limped back to the apartment building and slipped into Naruto's home, whimpering when he found no trace of the blonde. Back and forth from kitchen to the bedroom and from wall to wall the dog paced slowly, eyes continuously falling on the clock and watching the hand steadily move toward the end of another minute and turn into another hour. Finally. Around 2 in the afternoon, the front door finally creaked open. Naruto stumbled through the door, bruises littering his entire body like an infestation, his frame shaking uncontrollably as he fell to his knees and dropped his black bandana and bandages onto the floor. Naruto's lips were swollen and bloody, hair dangling around his face with sweat and grime, tears pouring down his face as he shivered and breaths coming in harsh, strained gasps. Guruko's tail found its way between his legs as he limped hurriedly over and sniffed the blonde. Guruko cringed and yelped as the distinct smell of bodily fluids and blood that the dog recognized from missions with Kakashi. Missions where they'd found victims of attack by Rouge Ninja rape victims. Naruto hiccuped and coughed harshly before he covered his mouth and shot up, running to the bathroom. Guruko heard the sound of retching escape from the wide-open door and winced. The dog felt his heart beginning to fall to pieces. Naruto was his companion, his friend, and that someone would hurt him like that caused the dog physical agony. Someone would pay for this, he would hunt down whoever did this and kill them, but for now he needed to be beside his companion. Just as Kakashi became Pakken's packed mate and Pakken Kakashi's familiar, Guruko found that Naruto had become his pack mate, and he Naruto's familiar. Guruko threw up his head and let out a loud howl of pure anger and sadness. Guruko gingerly licked the blood off Naruto's face as the blonde lay on the bathroom floor, staring blankly across the tile in front of him with his back against the wall. Guruko wanted desperately to go get help, but he didn't know where Sasuke and Sakura lived, and Kakashi was out of town. He could go to the Hokage Tower to get Tsunade, but that would take him nearly an hour to get to the center of the village with his leg in a cast. He didn't want to leave Naruto alone for such a long period of time when the blonde needed him. Not only that, but Guruko feared what might happen if the Jinchuriki was to be left on his own in his current state of being. Guruko gently nudged Naruto, but he didn't respond at all, just continued to stare ahead with blank eyes. The dog whined piteously, scared that Naruto had gone into shock. 3 long hours passed by before Naruto moved at all. Guruko was watching him studiously the entire time. Naruto moved stiffly from his laying position into a seated position with his legs spread out hazardously before him, back still against wall and eyes dull, but not completely blank as they'd been before. Naruto's lips were still swollen and the bruises showed angrily against his tan skin everywhere, but the dog managed to get the blood off him at least. Guruko let out a high-pitched cry that caused Naruto to slowly look over at him and blink a few times, but otherwise he didn't move. Guruko crawled forward, tail between legs, and nuzzled up to the blonde, licking his cheek affectionately. Slowly Naruto's right hand raised up to softly stroke the brown fur on Guruko's back. 20 agonizing minutes they stayed like that until Naruto pulled the dog closer and buried his face into Guruko's fur coat. "Sorry," Naruto whispered to him. "I'm so sorry." Guruko couldn't take it anymore. Naruto desperately needed him right now. "What are you sorry for?" Guruko asked. Naruto stared at him in shock, before tears started to stream down his face. "You!" Naruto croaked out in surprise and growing horror. "Me," Guruko answered solemnly. Naruto began to shake like a leaf as he stared at the dog. "Ayukaka-sensei said you can't, you shouldn't, it's just I." Naruto was hyperventilating as the realization of the situation hit him like a ton of bricks. "You can't talk." "He said you couldn't." Naruto finally shouted in full-blown panic. "He lied," Guruko said quietly to the blonde. "I lied," the dog added. "No!" Naruto yelled out, hands holding the sides of his head. "No, no, 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 no!" Naruto said wildly as he lurched to his feet, but in his weakened state stumbled, his entire left side slamming against the bathroom's countertop and crumbling down to his hands and knees. "Naruto!" Guruko called. The dog rushed over and peered at the blonde that tightly gripped his shoulder, a grimace of pain on his face. You can't say anything, please," Naruto begged the dog, his voice cracking slightly. Guruko nudged Naruto's cheek with his nose. "I can't let you be hurt like this, Naruto," Guruko said softly, eyes avoiding the blue orbs that gazed pleadingly at him. "You don't understand. Please, you can't say anything. I'm doing fine on my own," Naruto said tiredly, body leaning heavily against the cabinet. "Please, I don't want anyone to know. Everyone, they already think I'm useless. I don't want them to think I'm." Naruto's voice shook horribly to the point that it was difficult to understand, and his voice dropped in pitch with each word. Naruto's body lowered to the floor again, as if the gravity was too heavy for him to bear, until his forehead lightly touched the tile and the long strands of straw-colored bangs touched the ground. "I don't want them to think I couldn't handle that. I don't want them to know what happened," Naruto whispered. Guruko shoved his head under Naruto's and forced the blonde to look at him. "This wasn't your fault," Guruko snapped. "Don't you ever think something like that was your fault." Naruto turned away from Guruko and bit his lip, wincing at the pain of his still swollen lips. "It was my fault, though. I wasn't strong enough to get away. I couldn't stand the pain to fight back hard enough," Naruto whispered. Guruko angrily shook his head. "Stop. Don't you dare blame yourself like this," Guruko said. Guruko forced his body between the nook that sat lay Naruto's knees and bent head, and then craned his head into the crook of Naruto's neck, forcing the blonde to sit up all the way. Guruko carefully crawled onto Naruto's lap. "You don't understand," Naruto said softly. Guruko looked up at Naruto sadly. "I'll be here for you if you want to talk about it," Guruko told him gently. Naruto tried to smile at him, but it failed miserably, and came out more as a restrained wince. "Sorry," Naruto apologized again, though Guruko still didn't know what he was sorry for. Naruto squeezed Guruko in a tight hug before gently pushing the dog off his lap. "You haven't eaten all day, have you?" Naruto asked quietly. Naruto shakily stood up with a great deal of help from the bathroom counter, taking in a deep breath to steady himself. "You need to get into bed, Naruto," Guruko said sternly. Naruto shook his head stubbornly. "I'm not some kid who can't handle a little pain. I'll deal with it," Naruto replied as he walked out and into the kitchen area slowly. "If you don't let your body heal, you could end up worse than you are." Naruto just shrugged at him. "I'm a Jinchuriki. It will all heal in an hour or so tops," Guruko cursed under his breath. He'd gotten the scent of the people who'd committed the act, though, 2 of them. He'd recognized them the first time they came within 20 feet of him. Guruko would enjoy sinking his teeth into their flesh after he hunted them down. Naruto sat on the floor with him at dinnertime, but the meal was a silent one. Much to Guruko's vast annoyance, Naruto ate very little of his already small meal, staring down at the bowl of rice with blank eyes. The blonde said he still felt too sick to eat it, and that he'd eat the rest later though, so Guruko didn't argue. Afterward the blonde disappeared into the bathroom, this time the period between his entrance and the shower starting much longer than normal. Guruko couldn't blame him for wanting time by himself. Guruko awoke early Monday along with Naruto this time, by now used to the blonde's sunrise mornings. Guruko treaded around the blonde as if glass lay on the floor. Naruto refused to so much as even look in his direction. There was no tune coming from the kitchen when he woke up, and everything from watering the plants to pouring Guruko's food was done without a word. In fact, the only time Naruto spoke to the dog at all was when he informed Guruko on what he was doing that day. When Naruto said that he would be going on missions with Sasuke and Sakura for the day and that he, Guruko, would be staying home, the dog adamantly refused flat out to allow the blonde out of his sight, even though all the bruises and injuries the blonde had the day before were gone within a few hours, just as Naruto said they would be. Still, Guruko watched the boy carefully, weary of a relapse and eyes peeled for even the tiniest sign of pain in the preteen's expression. Truthfully, Guruko was at a loss for what he could do if it was there. Naruto had proven to be incredibly stubborn and resistant to any idea of help whatsoever. He tried to get the blonde to tell him who it was who'd committed the act with no success. Any type of thought towards going to someone for medical attention shot down. All attempts to convince him that the Hokage or Kakashi should be told ended in violent opposition. With this in consideration, Naruto was not in a good mood when they left the house an hour later to go to the training grounds. Once more the poor trees received the brunt of Naruto's negative emotions, and Guruko found himself increasingly thankful that they lived in the Fire Nation in the middle of a forest instead of Wind Country's desert. He had a feeling that Naruto's targets would have turned to small adorable animals such as himself. Guruko stayed the safe distance of 100 feet given that the killing intent reached to nearly 80 feet today. Quite a feat for a genin, but he supposed that it was to be expected from a Jinchuriki. When Sasuke and Sakura arrived, they stared, quite startled at the huge chunks missing out of the trees. Naruto had decided halfway through that kunai weren't cutting it enough for him and started practicing his Rasengan to ease his frustration. Damn Jounin, Naruto said cheerfully, to which Sasuke ichened in annoyance and Sakura looked toward the sky in exasperation. I really wish they wouldn't train here. It's gonna be difficult to find trees to practice chakra control on if they keep decimating them, the Pinkette said with a shake of her head. Guruko snorted and Naruto shot him a look to the side while Sasuke and Sakura weren't paying attention. Suddenly Sakura's mood changed as she seemed to remember something and turned to the two boys with a twinkle in her eyes. Sakura smiled broadly at the both of them, which immediately set Naruto on the alert. Sakura never smiled at him. You guys won't believe this. Sakura squealed excitedly. What? Naruto asked curious. Even Sasuke leaned in a little to hear better. I talked to Tsunade-sama, the new Hokage, and she's gonna take me on as her student, Sakura said happily. Naruto stiffened immediately, but smiled a moment afterwards, covering up his slip, not that either of his teammates noticed anyway. Tsunade's a great medical kunoichi, you'll do great, Sakura. You've definitely got the abilities for it, Naruto said with a strained smile. Sasuke nodded in agreement. Congratulations, Sakura, Sasuke said, to which Sakura blushed in embarrassed pleasure, hands folded in front of her. The dog stared in shock and watched Naruto with sad eyes as Naruto suggested they wait for Kakashi to get back and then take Sakura out for a team dinner. Sakura agreed with her broad smile still in place, buzzing with excitement. He wondered how difficult doing this for Sakura was for the blonde. I always wanted to be a medic nin like my mom was, but since I'm a Jinchuriki that's impossible. I can't be a medic nin, but I want to learn how to be a regular medic at least. Since I'm mainly a ninjutsu user, I've been reading a lot of medical books so that I can be the medic of my team. Maybe then I'll actually be able to do something right instead of always screwing everything up. It must have been incredibly painful to smile through that, and it only made Guruko sadder to know that Sakura would never know how much she just hurt her teammate. It had been Naruto's special thing, what he considered to be his most important quality, and what he thought made him useful to the team. Naruto had apparently been studying medical books since he learned to read and been supplied by the third Hokage who knew exactly what books would be best for the blonde. He told Guruko that he wanted to surprise them on their first mission when a medic was required, so he hadn't said a word about it. He even had the credentials for it, much to Guruko's surprise. He'd hesitantly asked Shizen soon after they'd gotten back from retrieving Tsunade to test him, and she'd been delighted to find that he was good enough to help out in the hospitals if he wanted as a beginner, and quickly cleared the paperwork for him. Shizen said the only thing Naruto needed now was to gain experience through working with patients. Naruto replied that he would be happy to start work in the hospital as soon as he cleared up some things that would take a few months still to get sorted out. In the meantime, Shizen gave Naruto access to her personal library of regular medical books, to which she'd apparently giggled herself silly when Naruto hugged her tight and couldn't stop thanking her enough. Naruto made her promise not to tell anyone about it though, not even Tsunade. Shizen thought it to all be a great idea and agreed. Naruto would never say anything to his team now, though. He was the type of person to never interfere with another's dreams, but encourage them in any way he could, even if it hurt him to do so. Team 7 was an assault team after all, and wouldn't need another medic, especially one without the chakra control to use medical ninjutsu. Guruko limped over and tugged on Naruto's pant leg, to which Naruto absent-mindedly patted his head. "Naruto, why'd you bring Guruko?" "It's not a training day," Sakura asked as she peered at the dog. Naruto forced a laugh and turned all the way to Guruko, rolling his eyes. "He whined and cried all morning to go with me, so I brought him to shut him up," Naruto said, to which Guruko huffed indignantly and whispered just loud enough for Naruto to hear. "I did not whine, I demanded with dignity." A small smile graced Naruto's lips for a moment before Sasuke spoke. "Dobe, you better not slow us down cause you're taking care of him, and don't even think that you're gonna shove the job on us." Naruto ignored him and picked Guruko up, following his teammates as they exited the training fields. "You okay?" The broad grin Naruto wore fell a little, but he nodded slowly in reassurance. "I'm fine." Nevertheless, Naruto's grip on him tightened slightly, and wouldn't relax an inch until he was forced to put the dog down to do his job. Warning: mild description of rape. Naruto stumbled and hit the ground, white powder cushioning his fall. Snow. He hated the snow with a passion. Everything in the world was dark except for the snow. It glowed with a savage wrath of death, cold, painful, empty death. Naruto raised his hands to his face, the fingers bluish-purple and tips turning black from severe frostbite. His feet were no better. The pain was unbearable. Every breath he took brought a cold, icy air into his lungs, before stealing his warmth with every exhale, white breath escaping from his lips as the tiny particles of water within him froze mid-air. Naruto stumbled to his bloody feet, eyes searching for a way out before his ears picked up a familiar sound. A voice, a female voice that sent shivers through his body, echoing from every direction. "You were born a demon, that's why everyone hates you. You are truly the epitome of death. A thing that doesn't deserve to live but lives, bound in human form and a constant burden on this village. Your curse will be my pleasure now though. You belong to me and I will have all the fun I want with you. If you don't fight, I'll make sure it's somewhat painless. If you do, however, that will only be more fun for me." That woman stepped forward from the darkness. Naruto turned and ran as fast as possible from her form and covered his ears as she began to chuckle, the small sound soon turning to outright laughter at his pitiful attempts at escape. Naruto turned down another lifeless, dark road and came to a stop as he came face to face with her again. Naruto tried to turn, to move, but mobility was suddenly beyond him. He screamed at his body to move, but the limbs simply refused to obey him. She was suddenly in front of him, caressing his cheek in a mocking show of affection. "You weren't trying to run, were you, my little monster?" The moment her fingertips touched his possession marks, Naruto felt her vicious lust run through his body, her icy hatred and desperate need to inflict pain on him. The emotions were painful to bear and it caused him to scream out, the sound echoing along the empty roads. Suddenly the background began to morph and twist until they both stood in a room. He was suddenly forced backwards onto a bed. He screamed and fought, but the woman in front of him only smiled. Her lips formed words and suddenly his world was enveloped in a fierce pain. As if his insides were being burned and ripped out, he arched his back in agony and a scream ripped through him. He felt the immense pounding of his heart as the feeling of acid being poured on top of the organ caused it to fluctuate and cry out to be released from his chest. From the shadows, a second female voice laughed merrily, grass-green eyes peering through the darkness in amusement. The black-haired woman took her time while he withered in agony beneath her, slowly taking off his clothes item by item. Then both women moved forward and lay on either side of him, slowly stripping themselves. Naruto tried to rise, to run, to fight, but she simply whispered those hateful words again, and the pain intensified tenfold. Naruto clenched the bed sheets and stiffened when cold fingers touched his stomach. He opened his eyes to see her face directly in front of his, but her eyes were looking at his stomach, the seal visible as always. "TSK, TSK, TSK. You naughty child, you've gained quite a bit of weight, haven't you?" Her fingers gently pinched the skin on his stomach. "I like seeing your ribs," she whispered in his ear, "like seeing your hip bone, but now they're covered in fat. Been indulging yourself a little too much?" She placed her unclothed knee against his stomach and pressed down hard, until he let out a gasp of intense pain. "Lose it, or I'll make sure every night you don't spend with me is filled with pain," she whispered, black hair falling in front of her and onto his chest. "Stop that," the grass-green-eyed woman said, "I want to have fun too, you know. Stop hogging the little slut." Naruto suddenly felt himself falling through the bed and tumbling down a dark drop before his body collided with something. Trembling, he pushed himself up to find himself near Team 7's training grounds, thankfully fully clothed again. He stumbled to his feet, pain racking his body and trying with all his might to push his emotions beneath his feet and gain control. He was sinking beneath the surface again, water rising around him. He needed his anchors. He needed the people he considered family right now, even if they would never consider him to be part of theirs. Naruto sloshed through the rising water to Team 7's bridge where they all stood. Naruto could have cried, he was so happy to see them. Just being there with them gave him strength to continue on. Their images were shadowed though, gray and dark like everything else in this world. Kaka-sensei? Sakura-chan? Sasuke-team? Naruto called hesitantly. It was as if the on switch was suddenly clicked by an unknown source. They came to life, their features full of life as they turned to him. Naruto couldn't help but give a grateful sigh of relief as he moved faster through the water till he stood on the bridge, its frame just above the waterline. Suddenly, though their faces contorted in disgust as they finally saw him, the dark looks causing the blonde to freeze and his heart to beat faster in panic. Naruto's smile fell as they stared at him with the same hatred of the rest of the village. "We know Naruto," Kakashi said in his deadly soft voice. "KK no?" Naruto asked softly in confusion. "We know what a filthy whore you are," Sasuke said harshly, voice filled with disgust and loathing. Naruto took a step back in shocked horror. It wasn't my choice," Naruto stuttered out, voice trembling as he tried to hold back a sob. "Yeah right," Sakura said mockingly, "I bet you like the attention. Always grabbing for it like some sick wretch." Naruto took another step back, biting his lip as he tried to keep himself together. "I never wanted anything like that. I tried so hard to fight her but Kakashi interrupted him. "Not only are you useless as a shinobi and teammate, but you're a filthy worthless slut," Kakashi said, shaking his head in disappointment. Naruto wrapped his arms around himself as his shaking got worse. "Please stop it," Naruto whispered brokenly. "You were never meant to be on this team anyways," Sakura said coldly. "Think about it. Kakashi Hatake, the famous copycat ninja and one of the elite jounin in Konoha, Sasuke Uchiha, the rookie of the year and star pupil that everyone wanted to train, and me, Sakura Haruno, the highest-ranking kunoichi of our class." Naruto took a step back, his feet dipping into water. "Then there's the fourth member of our team, you, Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto took another step back into the cold liquid. "The worthless, no-talent imbecile who never manages to do anything right at all and only screws up our missions." Naruto didn't even realize he was moving backwards as the water reached his knees. "Please stop," his voice was shrinking. Kakashi looked at Naruto in contempt as he spoke. "You were a mistake from the very beginning. The council only put you on this team because you are a Jinchuriki who they wanted me to keep an eye on." Naruto felt the water splash against his hips. "I couldn't wait to get rid of you the first chance I got during the finals. All your whining for me to teach you this and that, you were pathetic. So useless at the same time, not able to understand any of my explanations, you gave me headaches just thinking about trying to explain anything to someone so unbelievably stupid." Naruto felt the icy water swallow his stomach up in its grip. "Please stop," barely a whisper now. Sasuke shook his head in ill-concealed hatred. "Filthy, disgusting little bitch, you really thought that I'd consider you to be my friend? You think you deserve to have friends? You'd make us all incredibly happy if you just killed yourself instead of constantly bothering us." Naruto felt the water sweep up against his heart, and continued to rise. "Everything about you makes me sick. You're weak, a nuisance to everybody and annoying as all hell. I can't wait to become a Chunin just so I won't ever have to see your face again." The water washed over him and he let it take him whole, tears mixed up within the icy liquid. His anchors to the shore were what tugged him to the bottom of the ocean floor now. He felt numb, hollow to the very core. He wanted nothing more than to die and get it all over with. Naruto took a huge breath and let the water into his lungs. "Ah!" Naruto sat up from bed, beads of sweat falling down his face as he gasped for air. A nightmare, a realistic nightmare that combined his memories and fears. Huff, huff, huff. Naruto peered around his dark room and brought his knees to his chest as his hands shook uncontrollably. Moonlight illuminated the room in an eerie glow, clouds causing strange shadows to dance upon the walls in a rhythmic fashion. At the end of the bed a brown furred dog lay with pointed ears, not unlike a wolf's. "Guruko," Naruto whispered softly. The dog didn't stir, obviously tired out by the day of keeping up with Naruto with an injured leg. Naruto bit his lip and slipped out of bed, heading toward the bathroom. Naruto gently closed the door behind him and let his body slide down the door before he shakily reached for one of the drawers. Guruko woke up to the sound of a merry tune. Light streamed through the curtains in an irritatingly bright way that only the sun could accomplish. Grumpily, Guruko got out of bed and stretched, yawning contentedly as he felt his back pop into place. Guruko walked through the curtain that Naruto used as his bedroom door into the kitchen to find Naruto sitting at the table with his mother's book in his hands, poring over the instructions and adding notes here and there. "Morning, sleepyhead," Naruto called cheerfully. Naruto wore one of his long-sleeved shirts again with his usual orange jacket over it. "You call the break of dawn to be sleeping in? Sheesh," Guruko muttered darkly as he lay beside the table. Naruto laughed good-heartedly and put the dog's food bowl beside him. "Let's see, it's Tuesday and I'm bringing you in to Hana-san on Thursday. I'll be busy all weekend with work, which means if I want to get Sakura's birthday present I'm gonna have to do it today or tomorrow since her birthday's on Monday. Can you believe she'll be 14? Naruto asked as he poured some tea for himself, which Guruko noted he did not add sugar to for some reason. "Yes, I can. She's been a genin for a year and a half now, so it's the right age," Guruko said with another yawn. Hee, she's nearly a year older than me and Sasuke's at least 9 months older than me. Naruto commented thoughtfully. So your birthday's coming up soon? Naruto shook his head at the dog and laughed. No, it's already passed, it was a month ago. Guruko's eyes widened. Kakashi never said anything though, and he always summons us for your guys' birthdays. Guruko said in bewilderment. Naruto visibly flinched and looked away. It's alright, I know why we didn't celebrate it. My birthday's also the day that Kakashi's sensei died. You know, the whole Kyuubi attacking the village and got sealed into me thing? Naruto said and laughed loudly as he started to walk around the room and water his plants. Both Guruko and Naruto knew that the laugh was forced and painful though. While walking through the crowds of Konoha, Guruko took to snapping viciously at all the people who got too close or glared at the blonde as he passed. Naruto reprimanded him the whole way, but Guruko could hear the hidden relief in the preteen's no, he was 13 now, the teen's voice. Guruko was aware that Naruto was a year younger than his classmates because Kakashi once commented that the third Hokage purposely placed Naruto into the academy a year early to get him out of the foster homes faster. A couple weeks ago, me and Sasuke saw Sakura looking in the window of one of the shops here. She was looking at a necklace with a silver chain and this heart-shaped pendant with light green emerald around its edge. They had lots of the same pendants with different colors, but that was the one she was looking at. Naruto was telling him as they walked. Guruko was sure it was just Naruto's way of blocking out all the whispers, rather than his want to talk so much. Me and Sasuke agreed that I'd get that for her, and that he'd get her something else, since he didn't want her misunderstanding it as some love confession with the heart, and all. Naruto said cheerfully. Training that day panned out like all other days. Sasuke and Sakura sparring this time around while Naruto, once again on his own, worked on his chakra control. This time, instead of simply sitting on the water doing the leaf exercise, Naruto stood on his hands, balancing carefully atop the water while having a leaf stuck to every part of his body. The new exercise failed miserably the first 10 or so times, much to Guruko's amusement, who sat on the edge of the water watching. By the afternoon though, the blonde stayed completely balanced for an hour straight. When they called it a break for the afternoon, and were all about to go get lunch, Sakura tapped Naruto on the shoulder, who flinched at the unexpected contact and caused her to frown at him. Naruto, Tsunade-sama wants you to meet her in her office for some reason. She said I should tell you the first time we took a break today. Sakura said, and I know you did something stupid again, didn't you, voice? Naruto stared blankly at her before his gaze fell on Guruko and a look of understanding fell on his features, then turned to horror, which then decided to pale to nearly white, before finally settling on a grin so wide that only the immensely unobservant or uncaring could not see it as a complete fake. While both Sasuke and Sakura saw that it was fake, they believed that Naruto was merely being his normal dramatic self, and so did not attempt to ask or question it. Well then, I should probably go see her then, Naruto said cheerfully. Do you mind taking Guruko with you guys? I've got a feeling Bachan's not gonna be in a good mood, so it's best I not bring the injured animal with me. I sorta broke one of her vases the other day, and she's pretty mad. Wow, lies just fly right out of your mouth, don't they? Guruko thought irritably as Sasuke glared at him but picked Guruko up. You're completely useless, you know that? Sasuke snapped. Naruto flinched, but turned too quickly for his two teammates to see. Guruko growled threateningly at Sasuke, who looked down at the dog in surprise. Naruto jogged away from them, his hand waving behind him in farewell. Sasuke snorted and joined Sakura, who happily hopped behind him, glad to gain some alone time with the Uchiha. Later that afternoon, when Naruto finally rejoined his team, Guruko could tell that something bad happened and guiltily avoided the blonde's eyes as he knew it was his fault. Sasuke and Sakura didn't seem to notice the put-out expression though, and just continued to spar until Sasuke managed to get a good hit on the pinkette and she forfeited. Sasuke turned to Naruto with a superior smirk on his face. Come on Naruto, let's spar, Sasuke demanded. Sakura froze and looked up from the bottle of water she'd been about to take a sip of. You two aren't allowed to spar without Kakashi-sensei around to monitor you two, Sakura said sternly as she remembered the spar from the hospital rooftop just 3 weeks ago. We won't use our A rank or B rank jutsu then, Sasuke said with a smirk. No Chidori, no Rasengan, no fire jutsu or shadow clones. What do you say, Naruto? A simple taijutsu match? Sasuke continued, baiting the blonde. Naruto looked away from them, knowing what Sasuke was doing. They both knew Naruto's taijutsu was horrendous and both knew that Sasuke spent the month with Kakashi working specifically on that and the Chidori. Sasuke had become so angry with him since the spar on the roof that he took every opportunity to show Naruto just how much better he was at everything. Naruto shook his head tiredly. He couldn't take Sasuke's games right now, not after the awful argument he had with Tsunade. Sasuke glared angrily at the blonde as Sakura sighed in relief. Why not? You can't tell me that you're that tired after only a little chakra training. You're an even bigger idiot than I thought you were, Sasuke said in disgust. A deeply hurt look entered Naruto's eyes, but Sasuke ignored it and walked away with hands in pockets. Why don't you take that stick you got so high up your ass out, you prick? Naruto shouted out after Sasuke as he turned and stomped away through the trees, Guruko quickly following behind him. When they entered far enough back in the woods, Naruto rounded on Guruko, a fierce look of anger and betrayal on his face. His fists were clenched till crescent moons formed in the palm of his hands and blood slowly began to drip down from his fingers to the ground below. Naruto, Guruko began. How dare you, Naruto hissed. I let you into my home and took care of you just as Kakashi asked, and you turn around and repay me by telling Bachan about my personal life? The killing intent was monumental but focused, barely contained in the little area they stood in. Guruko fought hard against it just to speak. You're being horribly mistreated and hurt by shinobi of this village. It needs to be stopped. Guruko growled out. Naruto seethed. And why is that any of your business? Naruto asked angrily. I'm a Jinchuriki, for God's sake. We're treated like the plague no matter where we go or what we do, and nothing you or Tsubachan does will change that unless I make people see me for my accomplishments and deeds. Nothing. You think you growling at people's gonna make them stop hating me? It might make me feel better for 2 seconds, but in the end it's worse off than if you'd done nothing, because then they're angry with me, not you, but me. You think Bachan setting up new laws or orders is gonna stop anyone from hurting me? Let me tell you something. The law that Gigi, the third, made only hurt me. You work 3 different jobs. You're exhausted all the time, no matter how hard you try to hide it. I can see it, Guruko said quietly. Naruto looked about ready to throttle him. I have never failed a mission because I was tired, Naruto spat. I've completed all the assignments given to Team 7, and I've only missed training every once in a great while. What happens during my own free time is my business, and no one else's. It was Guruko's turn to glare at Naruto. I don't care about the stupid missions. Naruto, you can't keep doing this to yourself. It's not right that your rent is so high and that the only things you can afford to eat is rice and ramen. It's not right that a 13-year-old works at a bar to make ends meet. Naruto shook his head as if he was in an argument with a child. The world isn't a nice place. You either have to grow up or die, and I decided that I slightly like living. Naruto snapped. Then why don't you make living a bit easier for yourself and simply ask for help? Guruko asked, burning with curiosity. Naruto glared at him, but the look was less fierce than last time and far more fearful. I told you, I don't need anyone's help, especially not Kaka-sensei's or Bachan's, Naruto said. Fine. You don't need it but would definitely be better off with it. Guruko sighed tiredly. Naruto shook his head stubbornly. Do you know what that so-called help is? Bachan threatened to get a Biki to interrogate me for the man's name. She threatened to investigate and destroy everyone that was connected to that man in even the slightest way. Do you think that helps me? You think all those people being punished is going to help me in any way possible? Naruto asked, an icy touch to his voice. When people get punished because they've done something wrong to me, then they just blame that on me too, and slowly the people become even angrier at me until even worse things happen. Everything has consequences even when you're doing something for the good of someone. Things simply never work out the way you want, Naruto growled darkly. You sound like that Hyuga you fought in the finals that Kakashi talked about. Didn't you convince him not to talk so much about fate and destiny? Guruko argued back. Naruto chuckled at that before it grew into full-blown laughter. I don't believe in fate or destiny. You create your own paths and should never give up, but that's just it, you're going about it the wrong way. I'm also realistic. I know how to fight, I know how to win, and it's not the way you're going about it. You don't fight an entire village with brute strength, it doesn't work. I'm not giving up, I'm just trying to fight in a way that might eventually win, and it seems that you're determined to ruin it for me, Naruto said tiredly, for the first time allowing his exhaustion to show through. Naruto, you can't let them hurt you like this, Guruko finally said as he limped up to the blonde, and nudged his muzzle against his leg. Naruto bent down and stared straight into the dog's eyes. Guruko, you've got to believe me, how I'm fighting is the only way that works in a situation like this. And I don't let them hurt me. I fight hard against them when they corner me, but it's difficult to win when your opponents have such a powerful advantage against you. I might be losing a lot of the battles, but the losses are small when I look at the bigger war that I am winning, Naruto said with a small smile on his face. Can't you just give me the names of the people that hurt you? Guruko asked quietly. Naruto snorted. Take the list of citizens in Shinobi, extract about 10 names maybe, and you've got it. Guruko gave an annoyed look at the blonde who smirked at him before huffing and limping back toward the training grounds. A smile tugged at Naruto's lips as he got back to his feet. Guruko! Naruto called. The dog looked back at the blonde with curiosity. There's something I want to show you, but you have to promise not to tell anyone. Guruko breathed in surprise as he gazed at the rundown, but beautiful house before him. The house was past the training ground that sat in the shadow of the mountainside to the left of the Hokage monument. In fact, the house sat just within the borders of Konohagakure, hidden inside the dense forest trees. It was of good size, sturdy material and a unique design, fitted with arched doorways and windows along with a rounded balcony that opened up from the living room quarters. Despite all that, the windows in every room stood dejectedly with cracked and missing glass, and the roof sported many holes and shingles falling to pieces. The paint, a hideous puke green, peeled away in large patches all around the house, and various parts appeared to be in deep need of repair. Naruto landed gracefully on the ground in a crouch from the last branch of a series of trees he'd been traveling by. He gently placed Guruko on the ground as his sight too fell on the building. Great. Isn't it? Naruto asked quietly, as if afraid his loud voice would destroy the image before them. It needs a lot of work, Guruko commented dryly. Naruto frowned at the dog in annoyance, pessimistic. It does need work, but in a few short months I'm gonna own it, Naruto said as he walked toward the house. Guruko limped behind him with a frown on his face. Why so far from the village? Guruko asked. Naruto gave him an "Are you stupid?" look before turning back to the house, to which Guruko grimaced and followed him. Naruto stepped gingerly inside and around the fallen chandelier to stand in the middle of the living room. His eyes wandered the entirety of the place before settling on Guruko. I asked Gigi to make sure no one buys it before I'm old enough to. You have hold a job, and if you're a shinobi, be of the age of 13, because that's the age that genin begin to take up more high-paying missions and would be able to make the house payments,